Is that it, Jack? Or are you ready to go? Hi, everybody.
Hi, Joel.
Hi. Okay. So first of all, get the formalities out of the way. Simone, who had some of the chocolate coconut yogurt? How delicious is it? Can we have a general sound of how delicious it is?
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Simone. Yeah, we eat that. Nikki eats that all the time, so I highly recommend it. It's chocolate stuff you put in coconut yogurt. Yum yum yum. We have high bean coffee because it gets you high. Being not high today, so hopefully I'm a little less sporadic. So today we're talking about stress. So, who here has suffered from stress in the last week? Keep your hand up if it's the last 48 hours, the last day. So stress has become pretty normal. Can everyone agree with that? And a lot of the time you'll talk to someone, you're like, hey, how you been? And they're like, yeah, I've been good, I'm a little bit stressed, but that's just how it is. So it's become something that's very much flown under the radar as normal, but today we're trying to say that yes, it is normal, but it doesn't have to be normal. It is something you can take control of. And myself, Navar, and Josh, we've all been through our own experiences where we used to be extremely stressed. We still suffer from it today, but we've developed our own tools and strategies to mitigate it so we can start to enjoy life now. So our whole plan today is to make you guys realize a bit more about stress, a little bit more on the science, but actually more practical things, because we've talked a lot about science in previous seminars. So, what have I got? This is, I don't think one of the slides are coming up. Doesn't matter. This is why we get stressed. So on my right, on your left, we have the modern world. And the modern world is fast, it's chaotic. We have a million notifications from social media, we have emails, we have so many relationships we look after, we have a job, we have finance, we have all these things. And we have to move at 1,000,000 miles per hour. And the problem occurs is when the modern world is trying to work with our primitive brain, because our primitive brain hasn't evolved to keep up with all this mess. This is why stress has become normal. It's not our fault. It's not that we're broken. It's not that we're dysfunctional. It's because we have a brain that isn't wired for this environment. So the primitive brain is always meant to be on the lookout for problems. And it's evolved to do that to keep us safe. So if I was running through the jungle, blah, 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 if a tiger runs out, my primitive brain has seen that before I even get a chance to see it, so it can react, so it can keep me safe. Does that make sense, everyone? That's what the primitive brain does. So now when we have a million billion stimulus happening to us every day, our primitive brain is getting overwhelmed. And it's like, oh my God, like, have I got enough likes on this post? That's stressful. Am I gonna be good enough for my partner? Am I gonna make enough money? Can I afford to do this? We have all of these stimulus coming in all the time, so our primitive brain is like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's not designed to look out for positive things, because you're not gonna like, oh, there's a really pretty thing, that's gonna keep me safe. No, it's designed to look out for problems. Once we can accept that and understand that, we start to be a little less hard on ourselves in terms of understanding why we stress. Does that make sense, guys? Cool. So, it looks for problems. There's something called the amygdala. Has anyone heard of the amygdala? It's like this tiny little peanut-shaped thing in the middle of your emotional center of your brain. And we need to understand that our emotional center of our brain is actually separate to our thinking center of our brain. So how many people have kind of rationally understood that they shouldn't be stressed, but they're still feeling stressed? They're like, oh yeah, I've reasoned it out, yeah, no, this makes sense, this makes sense, I shouldn't be stressed, and then you're lying there not able to sleep, like, woo. Right? Everyone's been there? Yeah, so that's because our deeper, more primitive part of our brain is actually separate to our rational part of the brain. And the role of the amygdala is to look out for problems. And unfortunately, we're in a world where we're actually kind of bombarded with problems. So who here watches the news? Cool, not too bad. A lot of us have grown up watching the news, but what is on the news, really? It's like, this really hectic, scary thing happened. This really hectic, scary thing happened. This really hectic, scary thing happened. And we start to stimulate our amygdala. We're in a world where amygdala is now looking for those scary, hectic things because we've seen them bombarded all over the media and all over the world. So we live in a world that's already overstimulated, and then we're exposed to all of these fears and stresses, and our brains come geared up looking for problems, and that's a big source of stress. We have more problems than ever before. And when I talk about problems, I'm not necessarily talking about something that's necessarily bad. A problem is down to perception. And when you look at the definition of stress through psychology, it's actually a perceived stress. So something that stresses me may not stress you, and may not stress Carmen, and may not stress Navar. It really depends on what our personal stresses are. And once we begin to understand this, we start to unlock the key to knowing how to shift our perception so we can shift what stresses us out. So, everyone's sources of stress are unique. We've all had a friend and they're fragging out over something crazy, and you're like, why the hell are they stressing out over that? And vice versa, we've been stressing out over something, and our partner, our friends, our family might not validate that, like, why are you worried? It's because in our world, in our unique perception, it seems stressful to us. So it's really important to understand that stress is down to how we see it, and this is why it's also really complicated for our primitive brain, because it's not just an immediate threat that stresses us out, it's what we think or feel is stressful. And that is heavily influenced by what we think is important these days. We think appearance is important, we think status is important, we think all these extra things are important along with surviving, so we have all these extra sources of stress that we have to deal with. So we've taken this system that's meant to keep us safe, and now we're making it also think about all these other modern things that are really hard to keep up with, plus all of the fast-paced lifestyle we have to keep up with, and then our brain's on overhaul. And that's why it constantly gets thinking and worrying and thinking and worrying. So I've kind of created analogies for stress. So I'm thinking of stress as a bit of a backpack. This is all based on something called allostatic load. Allostatic load is the scientific definition of stress, where you can handle stress to a point where it's okay, and after that point, that's when it starts to become a problem. So let's say you're pretty chill, you might have a few regular concerns, you've got this tiny little, fairly fashionable backpack, okay? Over time, let's say something stressful happens during your day, that is some load that's added to your backpack. The reason I use the analogy of a backpack is because it's like you're carrying that with you. So you start to feel that. You might not feel it physically, but it starts to weigh down on you. You may tolerate less, as Karen knows, we were talking about that yesterday. You might start to get a bit shorter, you might start to be a little less compassionate for other people. All of these things start to become a little harder because you're carrying a weight around. And then what happens if something more stressful happens? The backpack gets heavier. And who here kind of understands this? Like, we all know when we're good that we're good, but we can be a completely different person when we're stressed. The reason I'm using this analogy is for us to understand that we're not necessarily bad people, but we need to understand what stress does to us as people. Because if we start to recognize that, A, we can realize we need to manage our stress more, but B, we can be a bit more forgiving on ourselves when we behave out of character when we are stressed. And for most people, because we haven't been given tools to manage stress, the backpack ends up looking like this, okay? I was Googling this, and it was like, new 2019 fad, giant backpacks. I'm like, what the hell is that? So I'm surprised he could even move, this guy. But the reason I use this analogy as well is because when we have a lot of stress in our body, it manifests in different ways. We have a lot of overthinking and a racing mind and a lot of thoughts, because our brain's like, how do I solve this problem? How do I solve this problem so I can keep myself safe? We also may have a lot of muscular tension and pain within our bodies. So who's been there lying at night and your brain's going and your body feels really awake and you can't fall asleep? Has anyone been there? I know I've been there. That's because you're wearing a giant backpack. And I mean, when you're asleep, it's not really weighing you. So let's pretend it's like zapping you. It's a backpack full of zaps, okay? So wherever we go, this load tends to affect everything that we do. And I mean everything that we do. Like, everyone's been there before an exam, and you just can't retain any information because you're stressed. You've been there in the exam, you just can't pull anything out of your brain because you're stressed. When we perpetually live in this state, it literally begins to weigh you down. And that's why a lot of people with modern posture these days are actually worn down, because emotionally this represents we're actually worn out, we're struggling, we're carrying this big backpack, and that's why someone who studies posture, everyone tends to have this posture these days, and that's why we get a lot of other problems in our body. So, that's stress. Carrying this backpack makes living your ideal life hard. And the reason I say makes living your ideal life hard, because who thinks they could have a way better life if there was no stress? Like, if there's nothing holding you back. Anyone agree? Give me some hands, yeah. Because so much of the time, we're like, yeah, I could do this in an ideal world when I don't have to worry about this, and this. And then we might have a small window of time where those problems have gone away, but then we might perform for that week, but then when all the problems come back, we fall apart. It's because it's very hard to be your best self when you're constantly carrying shit around. So I'm going to go a little bit into the specifics of stress. What's in the backpack? These are all just examples, but these are things we can all relate to. So relationship stress, it's not easy considering another human being because they're so complicated, they have so many needs, and a lot of the time they don't meet our needs very well because it's hard to show up in a relationship sometimes. Financial stress, you can have too busy and lack of time, and that can lead to a lack of self-care. So we all have very fundamental needs as humans. We need to move, we need to eat, we need to do things that we love, we need to have fun, we need to have genuine connection. And when you're too busy, that can lead to those things missing out, and you don't have self-care, okay? Poor physical health. Many of us, our health has suffered because we haven't looked after ourselves, and then that becomes a stress because our body's not healthy. So it's like, these are all things that add up as allostatic load in our backpacks. Overthinking or worrying, poor nutrition stress. So if you're eating foods that are heavily refined, alcohol, caffeine, I know we just gave you all coffees, but caffeine is one of them. Anything that stresses your body out adds to the load as well. So the reason I say this, because these things aren't necessarily bad in small doses by themselves, but when you have one on top of another, on top of another, there comes a threshold where it becomes very difficult to manage these things. And that's when it actually turns from a stimulus to a stress. That's when imagine I have like a swimming pool, and once it fills up to this line, your body can handle that. But once it goes past that line, that's when your body's like, okay, this is too much for me. This is going to start to be detriment to my mood, to my energy levels, to how I feel, and those kind of things as well. Does that make sense, guys? That's allostatic load. So the whole point of this seminar is to try and remove some of these loads from you, or give you tools so you can manage these loads more effectively. Think about it as this guy. Like, none of us right now, I don't know, who here could juggle like several balls? Anyone? Josh has his hand up. Josh Hardy, everybody. Woo.
Yeah, balls.
So at first, if you were starting to juggle, you would probably suck at it. I know, I'm not the worst, I'd probably do 3 balls. But in time, you can learn to juggle more balls. You can become more tolerant. You can manage all these different things in your life if you try and do it. You don't always have to be overwhelmed. Like myself and Josh, sorry, I was going to say myself, Josh and I, myself, Nav and Josh, we do a lot in a day. And it is somewhat stressful, but it's so much more than what we used to be able to do because we've learned to manage it. We've learned to see the situation that used to be really hectic as fun. It's like we now manage our sleep and our stress so much better so we can handle more. So we become a lot more agile at juggling balls. Unfortunately, most people don't even know about the science of stress. So how do they learn to address stress? How can they juggle more than just themselves? Sometimes like one extra thing comes and everything falls in a heap. So here are some of the effects of stress. I'm not going to go heavy into the science, but stress is basically linked to most modern diseases. I'm not trying to scare you guys, but the reality is, disease means dis-ease. So your body's being taken out of its easeful state. When our body's in a state of homeostasis, when there's no problems, it's very good at naturally healing itself and regulating all its chemicals and feeling good. But as soon as we have things that take us out of our natural state, we start to shut down these natural healing processes and our body starts to not be able to bring itself back there. And if you're there for years and years and years and years and years, that's when your body really struggles to look after itself. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah, so I'm not going to go into the mechanisms. There's so many different ways that stress can do that. Just one example, you know, who's had like a near car crash or anything really scary and then your heart's going and everything's going? That is an example of an acute stress response. So that's what the body's trying to do to keep us safe. Oh shit, like, get switched on so we can survive. Like all energy, go, 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 go. If you're chronically stressed for a long period of time, that's why you can have heart issues, because you have a chronically elevated heart rate, you have chronically increased blood pressure, you have chronically increased blood sugar. Okay, so if for a long time, that's how it can be linked to heart disease. It lowers moods, obviously. Okay, it can make us wired and eventually exhausted if we've been through a long period of stress. Affects sleep. We've all been there, trying to lay there and sleep, can't sleep, thinking about stupid stuff that's probably not even relevant. Even if you're not thinking about stuff, you can just lay there like, why can't I sleep? And then you may have a sleep and wake up still feeling tired because you didn't sleep that well because you were stressed, okay? It can affect your hormones, so I'm not gonna go crazy into that, but it can flip your digestion around. Some people get really hungry when they're stressed, some people just don't eat at all, so it really depends on the individual. Immune issues, so people get sick really easily and often, they're obviously stressed. And then it can also lead to fat gain and muscle loss. So when you're running in a state of stress, it basically just kills you from every angle. So I'm not trying to be fearful with you guys. I just want to be honest with you guys so you guys can be honest with yourselves so you can start to understand what it's doing and whether the things you're doing in your life are worth the stress sometimes as well. So that's a lowdown on stress, guys. I'll just put my timer on so I know where I'm at. So we're all going to go into our stories now so you guys can kind of understand where we're at in our life experience. So you guys can probably see I have a bit of a broken nose and I still can't breathe that well through it. So this is kind of my story of growing up with terrible breathing and how that's led me to going to a lot of research and starting to understand how that affects the body and how it's one of the major things that actually regulates stress. So, it's not me as a child, I just googled snotty kid. But that was me growing up. I was the kid who always had like that gross green mucus from as long as I can remember. I had symptoms of asthma and I had to use a puffer. Like I don't know, has anyone had asthma? You get like this feeling inside of your chest that you want to scratch, but you can't scratch it. Like I had that feeling when I was young, like I'm breathing cold air and be all wheezy all the time. I would have chronic sinus infections to the point where I could like taste the mucus inside of my head. It was like, I'd blow it out and be brown. It was so disgusting. So I was quite sick as a kid. And as a result of that, up until a few years ago, I very, very rarely could even breathe through my nose. So I started off like that. As a result of that, does anyone know what cauterization is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had this surgery because doctors don't really understand that like a lot of sinus issues are linked to what we call inflammation, which is when the body's a little bit pissed off by things that are annoying the immune system. So they're like, my mum's like, look, my kid can't breathe. We tried antibiotics, which kills the immune system more. We tried all these different treatments. They're like, let's do cauterization. Let's get some burning objects and melt out some space in his nose because maybe then he'll be able to breathe. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense, doctors. So I was young at the time. Has anyone gone under general anesthetic and you're like trying to fight the general anesthetic? They're like, count down from 10, you're like, yeah, I've got this. And then you're like 8 and you pass out. So you wake up, look. I had that and they didn't tell me before the op that I wasn't supposed to blow my nose up. Because I'm always congested, I had that like, big green bloody snotty thing, and then as soon as they came to like, blow your nose for a day, I'm like, so I've been through that. That didn't help at all. And I kind of battled these breathing issues for a long time. I've got no images now. So first two things, I had sinus infections, asthma, had surgery to make room for me to breathe. So that was me when I was younger. Before you see me like in this state now as a health coach, as a life coach, presenting to you guys, I studied engineering. And in that previous life of mine, I was extremely stressed. Like I wouldn't be able to switch off at night. I would like just sleep procrastinate because I knew I wasn't going to sleep. I'd be really nervous around other people. And a lot of this actually stemmed back to my inability to breathe well because breathing regulates stress. I used to play a lot of video games as well. So you can imagine me not being able to breathe and I'd be like this. I spent like, my mum said to me once, she thought she was worried if I had a disability when I was young, because I'd sit there in front of the TV just mouth breathing like. That's not honest truth, that's just a little bit worried about me until I could start to talk. So that's who I was growing up. It wasn't until I started to learn about nutrition and learn about how the body worked that I could start to actually manage what was creating the immune response in my body. So if something's pissing your body off, it's gonna maybe produce hay fever, it's gonna produce sinus. It's a sign of like, oh, there's something irritating the system. And literally I know that I don't tolerate dairy very well, so everyone just has like dairy for every meal, and your kids cereal, banana, chills, chopped chills, all those kind of things. So I lived on dairy, cut out dairy, eliminated most of the sugar out of my diet, made a few other changes. And my breathing's still not amazing because my nose is a bit cranky and bent, but for the most part, I can actually breathe through my nose now, which I didn't understand. And it was such a big thing. And one of the biggest points is when I noticed how powerful this was. I used to work at a gym 2 doors down there. These guys poached me and gave me a better job. But I was sitting in the office there, like running some programs and stuff, and all of a sudden I just started to feel really anxious. And it's because my nose was unblocked and then it suddenly blocked up, and my breathing had switched from nose breathing to mouth breathing. And in that period of time, I actually noticed the massive difference out of those two types of breathing influence how I feel. And that was one of the biggest moments when like, damn, like nose breathing is a massive thing. Because up until that point, I'd studied it, and I knew it was a good thing because I've been practicing it, but that was like the clear line in the sand. I'm like, I felt the switch from nose breathing from like, to and what that did to my body. Does anyone here mouth breathe? Cool, love you. Oh, a couple, yeah. We'll talk about it. So, I couldn't really breathe up until my 20s, and then I started to realize that as I got into health and fitness, that breathing is actually a very important thing. I don't know what my last line is. Oh yeah, so I'm going to talk about how I use breathing to actually reduce a lot of the stresses I had. So once I realized that breathing regulated stress, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, I started to use that to rewire a lot of the problems that I had. So I used to be really, I'm not going to go as far as to say socially anxious, but I was quite socially nervous, I was insecure and those kind of things, and I'd feel really in those situations. And what I found is that breathing actually regulates your stress response. So I'll go into a situation where I'd normally be anxious or insecure, and all I do is practice good breathing, and I was relaxed. I'm like, oh, I don't have this association with social situation with stress now. And then I started to realize that by having the ability to regulate my breathing response and my emotions, I can begin to do that in all kinds of situations. So even before a seminar, I'm not going to be like stressing the hell out. I'll just take a few deep breaths and that regulates my body, and then I'm able to get up here and speak. So I really shifted my identity in who I was by understanding that I didn't need to be defined by being stressed all the time. I could learn to manage my stress response through my physiology, through my body, and as a result change who I was and how I felt. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Cool, so that's what we're going to share with you guys in a moment. So now we're going to go a little bit into breathing. So I didn't talk much about stress, but not the mechanics of it. But we can either be in the fight or flight response. That's when something's wired you up and you're either going to kill the thing that's trying to get you or you sprint off. Okay? There is freeze in that category as well, but generally fight or flight. We've all experienced that, right? Even if you're really angry or pissed off and you can't control yourself, it's fight or flight. Then we have rest and digest. When you breathe into your chest and with your neck like this, really rapidly, like think hyperventilating, panic attack, that is extreme fight or flight. That's your body getting ramped up for combat, okay? And when you breathe deep into your stomach, into your lower abdomen, generally through your nose, that actually takes your body, stimulates a whole different set of nerves and brings you into the rest and digest state. The reason I call it fight and flight and rest and digest, one is like pumping up for combat, one is preparing you for recovery, having better sex hormones so you can actually breathe, so they call it feed and breed as well. Because as any creature, there's two fundamental things. Survive, so don't get killed, and breathe. Okay, so that's this is the reptilian brain, this is what it does, it manages our stress response. Breathing is the only conscious thing that we can do to communicate with our reptilian brain. And I like to think of it as you've got a start and stop switch. So most of us don't have this off switch, so we get taken away by the stress, we're overwhelmed, and we don't know what to do. But once I realized breathing actually controls this response, and you learn to master it and do it correctly, eventually you do it subconsciously all the time. But once you master it, you have an off switch. And it doesn't mean, like, say someone's really anxious, it doesn't mean straight away after today's breathing you'll be able to stop your anxiety. No, it takes practice, it takes time, and you'll be able to do it in increasingly harder situations until you've mastered it. You've finally got a way to talk to that part of your brain that your conscious thought, like, why am I stressed? That's not going to stop it. You need to go into your body because stress is actually within the body. Does that make sense, guys? Cool, okay. So, I don't know what I said next. Oh yeah, the other massively fascinating thing I found about breathing is that it is very centered in most spiritual practices. So wherever you look around the world, there's various types of meditation, and the central practice of all these types of meditation is generally some emphasis on some type of breathing. Yogic practices have different, the tantric practices, just meditation itself, they all have different types of breathing to induce different states. And when you see the scientific evidence and you also just look at the massive amounts of culture and time that people have spent on these things, you start to realize that people had already figured it out. It's fallen out of mainstream culture because all these things are seen as esoteric when they're not. They're actually, we had a fundamental understanding of how our mind and body worked, and now we've forgotten that fundamental understanding, and now breathing is seen as this thing that your psych might tell you to do, like, oh, breathe it out, whereas it's actually something that's pivotal for us to manage how we feel. So I said this earlier, breathing lets you talk to your reptilian brain. It's the only conscious link we have to communicate with this deep part of our brain, because the reptilian brain controls your breathing, but if you change your breathing with your conscious thought, you can control your reptilian brain. It's like this two-way walkie-talkie setup we have. And the way, I don't know if I put my funny slide in, no I didn't. So the way I like to say it, it's almost like you can kind of like smooth talk your body into relaxing. Because if you're stressing, your reptilian brain genuinely thinks something's trying to kill it. So it's not just gonna switch that off. That's a very deep survival thing. It's not just gonna go, oh, there's no reason to stress, it's gonna go away. No, you need to find the only way to communicate it with it to die it down. So I think of it as like you're kind of sweet talking it, you kind of seduce, it's okay, little reptile. Like the same way you pet an animal, it's okay, that's what you're actually doing with your own body, or you're kind of giving it a bit of a lullaby. So we're learning to interface with a deeper part of ourselves, the animal part of ourselves that we have no conscious control over, so we can actually begin to regulate our body's feelings. So that's breathing, guys. Any questions before we get into practical? I don't know how we're going to make this work logistically. We're all going to do a lot of breathing on the floor, so hopefully you guys figure it out. Any questions? Cool, okay. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the intention behind breathing, because how many people have tried breathing stuff in the past to regulate stress? Give me some big hands, anyone else? Cool. And how many people have had massive success with it? Cool, okay, that's really good, really, really good. So a big thing that I find people struggle with is they go into breathing with the wrong headspace and the wrong way. Thought I turned that on. They go in with the wrong mentality. So most things we do in life these days, it's very much a product of Western culture. It's like go, get things done, get things done. If you bring that mentality into breathing, you're just gonna add more stress. Because you're like, if you're like trying to breathe really hard, that's just gonna stress your body out. And most of the time when I do breathing with my clients, and I do it not for stress regulation, but to help their core work better and their body stabilize itself correctly, because it's an integral part of that. When I get them to do that, they're trying really hard. And as a result of that, they don't actually breathe more deeply, because breathing deeply requires a sense of relaxation. So the biggest thing before we actually do these exercises, I'm gonna give you guys plenty of time to do this, we've got about 15 minutes, is to do it, and this sounds weird, but it'll start to make sense when you do it. As you breathe, don't force yourself to breathe more deeply. Anticipate the next breath being easier and feeling better and being more chilled, if that makes sense. So you're kind of not expecting the next breath to come in deep, but you're like, it'd be cool and smooth if the next breath felt a little bit deeper. So that's the first thing, the mentality of breathing. Just the biggest thing is not to have expectation, but to observe and feel what your body's doing. Because if you expect yourself to be able to breathe deeply instantly, most of us are going to be like here and out breathing capacity and ability. If you expect yourself to breathe deeply straight away, you're only going to get then frustrated and judge your body for not being able to do it, and you're not going to go anywhere. Does that make sense, guys? So you want to imagine, like, if a mom was nurturing a kid, that would be really gentle and chill. Like you want to create that same mentality. Imagine you're getting your face mask done, or you've cracked a beer, and like that kind of headspace, that mentality is what you want to bring to breathing. So if we all kind of bring our chairs outside, we might need to kind of move the tire and create some space. Diagram, and then we're going to get into it. So breathing is actually driven by muscles. Your lungs are a passive structure, meaning they don't do anything. They just sit there, and your muscles act as like a bellow that pulls air in, and then the elastic reflex pushes the air out. Cool. So when we're breathing, this is a rib cage. That's your spine, pelvis, knee, head. Pretty cool. Okay. When we're trying to create an effective breathing position, we want to make sure that our pelvis, this line, lines up with our rib cage in that line. So imagine these as like a lid of a box, and if the box is a line that works well. So if we're in a posture where our pelvis is like this, so you've got that extra curve in your low back, can everyone just do that right now? Like, stick your butt back so you can almost feel your low back hurting a little bit. And then try and take a big breath in and tell me how terrible it feels. Doesn't work very well. And now do that while flaring your rib cage up. Try and do that now. Can everyone feel how bad that feels? That is like the most mechanically disadvantaged position you can be in when you're trying to breathe. Now, if everyone tries to like kind of squeeze your butt and tuck your hips under and get your rib cage down a little bit, you might look a little bit slumpy, that's okay. Try and breathe there, and can you guys feel the difference of that? It might not be easy because standing is a really hard position to breathe because everything in your body is stabilizing at once. So we're going to jump on the ground on our backs and just wait for me. And all we're going to do at first, make sure your hips are tucked under, take a big breath out until you feel your ribs. So say this is me exaggerating my flared ribs. Take a big breath out until you feel your rib cage come down. Then all we're going to do is place our hands on our tummy and try and breathe into our tummy. I'll come around and help everyone, but everyone just get into that position, get comfy, don't be scared. What we're going to do is gauge how our breathing feels now. Then we're going to do a couple of exercises, and then we're going to re-gauge it. So get your hands on your rib cage. Sorry about the floor, guys. It's just the floor. Get your hands on your rib cage. Take a big, complete exhale until you feel your tummy muscles working. And then once you've pushed all the air out, that's what neutral rib cage position feels like. Once your ribs are down, then bring your hands onto your tummy. And if you can breathe through your nose, you go as low as you can. Go as low, like just above your pelvis belt line, guys. Now through your nose, try and see how well you can lift your hands up. And our whole aim is to try and breathe into our lower stomach. Just observe, guys. We're not like testing ourselves here. We're just seeing how it feels. So your legs bent. And just have a gauge of how easy that is or hard it is. Because in a moment, we're going to do a couple of exercises to wake your diaphragm muscle up. We're going to see how it goes. So how many people like just yell out, are you struggling to get into your tummy? Okay, that's really good. So the first fundamental part of breathing is trying to breathe into your tummy. Now we're going to do some exercises to improve your breathing and then come back to this position. So everyone roll onto your side. Any side, doesn't matter. I know this is weird, guys. Work with me. Work with me. We're going to place one hand on our bottom of our ribs and kind of one finger just tucked under your rib. I know that sounds weird if you can do that. Your diaphragm actually is under your ribs. So I've got my hands like that. Perfect, guys. Now I want you to try to lift your ribs as you breathe through your nose as high as you can. And then exhale, let them drop as far as you can. So we're trying to get as much lateral or side to side opening of the rib cage. At first, ribs may not move at all. That's normal, that's okay. And the whole point of putting one finger slightly under the ribs, you always try to push your finger out when you breathe in. So just kind of just get chill, pay attention to your body, just feel your body, treat it like a game. We'll spend about a minute here. You're like, how far can I relaxedly lift my rib cage up? You should feel your ribs lifting. You should also feel the thing that's on your ribs will be pushed by the big muscles of your tummy. And every rep, without forcing it, just try and lift that up a little bit more, guys. If you're struggling, that's fine. Something to work on. That's good. That finger, that muscle is there. That's your main muscle. So even in this small amount of time, are people feeling some improvements in how much movement you're getting through now? Cool. Traditionally, people think belly breathing is just like your belly going in and out. That's false. Like your diaphragm actually breathes in all directions. Most people kind of push their bellies in and out and they're not making full capacity. So now we've spent some time on that side, guys. Roll over, we'll go to the other side. I just want you to observe, does it feel easier? Does it feel harder? So one finger kind of just under the ribs, hand on the ribs. Try to push the finger out with you as you inhale and try and lift the ribs up. So you should almost feel like the muscle pushing across the ribs up. Just kind of easily try and imagine, like really feel the air entering the stomach, feel it gently expanding. And as you exhale, just imagine like letting go a little bit, like not trying to force it, just relaxing into it. So all we're doing right now is opening up your capacity to breathe more so that when we go back to our position in a moment, we'll be able to get a bit of a state of relaxation. So one of the reasons breathing is so powerful is because if you're focusing on something physical, you're not in your mind. So if you're focusing on your body, you've now given your mind that always likes to solve problems a job. And its job is now not like, what's for dinner? It's like, let's breathe. And when you're breathing, then you're also regulating your stress. So does everyone, give me some sounds, does everyone start to feel a bit of movement through that side? Yeah. Okay, cool. So now, this may be not comfortable for everyone in jeans, we'll see how we go. So we're going to do child's pose in a very particular way. And this is to open up our posterior ribs. So I'll let everyone sit up so you can see me. I'll come over here. So we have the capacity to breathe here, here, and through here. Our diaphragm is actually a 360-degree operating muscle, and when it works well, it pulls and expands out in every direction. Most people breathe here as their default breathing. So we've just stimulated here. We're going to take you here in a moment. But now what we're going to do is imagine when I'm lying in a child's pose, my knees are going to be against my tummy, and when I breathe, I'm going to feel the pressure of my air push into my thighs, but because it's going to have nowhere to go, then as I breathe, I'm actually going to visualize the air expanding my lower back. So we're just going to kind of flop into this position here, guys. Get comfy. Let your thighs touch your stomach. And then as that happens, try to then breathe into your lower back. So you'll feel, as you initially breathe in, you'll feel the air fill your stomach, you'll feel it push into your thighs. And then after it pushes into your thighs, just visualize and try and feel it entering your low back, into your lower ribs. You might not feel a ridiculous amount of movement, but the whole point is just to have that intention and continue to do that. This is also a really good way to get feedback as to whether you're breathing into your stomach or not, because those thighs will tell you. If you're not feeling it squish your thighs, you're not breathing into your stomach. So we need to do that. So just stay here for a few breaths, guys. Just chill out. start to feel the idea of that expansion. Just try and like get that, like imagine you're filling this whole space up. Nice, really good. So imagine just trying to open the whole back earlobe back up. This is an area, because we never breathe here normally, so this area gets really kind of stuck down, and then we have this kind of prison of tension around our ribs that don't allow us to breathe very effectively. So we've got 2 or 3 more big breaths here, guys, and after that, we're going to return back to our original position. So don't rush, take your time. Whatever you feel ready. Once you feel like you've gotten something out of that, like you're like, yeah, I understand, I can feel the breath on my thighs, I can feel a bit of movement in my lower ribs and my lower back, then we're going to return back to our backs, okay, with our knees bent, and we're going to spend a good couple minutes in a relaxed breathing position. Is anyone feeling more relaxed just after doing this? Yeah, everyone's like, yeah. If you are feeling sleepy now, it means we've shut off your stress hormones and you're running, oh, this is how you actually feel without your stress hormones pouring through your system. So you're like, this means you need a rest, but normally because we're so stressed, we don't notice it because we're running on all these chemicals. So now again, hands just below that point, just above those hip bones. And now I want you to kind of hug yourself a little bit. So you've got your fingers on the front of your hip bones and you've got your thumbs around the side. So you're kind of doing a 360 hug. And now I want you to imagine you're expanding in all directions as you breathe. And you're allowing that air to start like as low as possible and then kind of fill up 2/3 in the stomach, 1/3 into the chest. And again, do this with like a really gentle intention in your mind. So you're just trying to like feel the air coming through your nostrils, feel the air expanding in your tummy. And just kind of pay attention to it, be appreciative of it as well. Like you breathe naturally, it keeps you alive all the time. So one other part of breathing that people do is you're observing your body keeping you alive without thinking, and that's like a really magical thing as well. And every time you exhale, just imagine like, just like letting go of a bit of shit. You don't have to make a sound, but as you exhale, imagine the floor is taking a little bit more of your weight. Subconsciously, we tend to hold on to a lot of tension. So as you expand, like feel the expansion through your lower stomach. And as you gently exhale, just kind of feel your body sinking into the floor. Let the floor support you a little bit, if that makes sense. So the tempo of breathing really depends on what feels natural. Like the general rule would be maybe a 4 count in and a 4 count out. But if that is straining for you, you must make it go quicker. So 4, 2, 3, 4 in, and then 1, 2, 3. If that's too hard, you don't want to make it hard. You want to find what tempo can I breathe at comfortably right now, and over time, how can then I make that like a little bit longer, a little bit slower. Stay here for another 60 seconds or so, and then we'll jump up and see how it felt. Now that we're almost finished, just pay attention to how you feel. Like this isn't like you haven't practiced breathing for a long period of time. We've done like a couple of rushed exercises in a room full of people. So just pay attention to like just from this one little drill, how relaxed did you get? Like did you get a lot out of this? And then imagine if you continue to do this every day, you know, with some music on, as a practice, if your breathing just became naturally this good all the time, how would you feel at the time? These are the thoughts I want to give you guys because like if you do practice all the time, your body naturally becomes relaxed. That's how it's supposed to feel. So everyone, when you're ready, we'll jump up, we'll grab our chairs, try not to sleepwalk into anyone. That's the stress response. That's a genuine reason for it. So that's the one of the only genuine times where we have it, but you still can open it.
And it's mostly because when I have clients, I'll just start line and then starting to breathe.
That's really cool. So, how did everyone feel an improvement through that time? Anyone feel sleepy now? Yeah, okay. So it can be used before sleep, but as a general rule, try to do it as often as possible. Like, try to live a little bit more consciously. So whenever you're doing something, if you know you're going into a stressful situation, like breathe a little bit, like slow yourself down. If you know you're doing something that you really enjoy, breathe a little bit, slow yourself down. Like, as often as possible, just check into how you're breathing. Because if you check in, you're then like, oh, I'm deciding consciously to do that off switch, instead of just letting your body take you wherever it wants to on autopilot and just stressing out. That's me done now. You're up, Mr. Paul.
You succeed it, mate. You.
Yeah. How's everyone feeling?
Good.
Alright. What's the theme for this?
Oh, I'm coming. It's the same on my phone. Do you know my phone?
Yeah, actually I do, I think. Nope.
That's all those girls' phones.
Oh,
Do you want the total time?
I didn't turn it on actually. Let's figure
You
it
got
out.
this big boy.
Okay. So. Bear with me. Technical. Stress. Okay. Are we sound spiking? Yeah. Cool.
Don't do it now.
Don't do it.
Screw you, Jack.
Where is Jack? Okay, I'm gonna go clap like a weirdo. All good?
Yep.
Cool. Alright, 1 sec. I'm ready. Cool, so before I get into it, I'll tell you guys what I'm about to do. I've thought about this for a while because there's so many aspects to life that cause stress, and there's so many aspects that we could do, so many things that we could do that are going to help us relieve stress as well. So I thought about it really hard. Originally I was going to do some sort of meditation as well, dive into that, as well as some sort of like self-reflection. But then what I figured what I might do is I might actually just give you, bring insight into all the tools that I genuinely believe are going to help set you up in bringing clarity and self-awareness and self-discovery to your life that will then help relieve stress. I'll tell my story, and I'll tell you why I think this is so important. And then what we're going to do is we're going to send you homework anyway. Everyone's attended one of our seminars before. We send you lots of homework, and there's going to be lots of stuff for you guys to do. The reason why I reflected on this, I think this is so important, is because you guys can sit here for 2 hours, and this is an amazing step, and I respect you all for actually taking the time to come here and learn all this and to benefit your life from this. But the reality is, you guys need to implement this and start to take responsibility for your own life and start to put these actions in place. Because you can sit here for the 2 hours, you can learn everything that we say, but if you don't take these into your life and start to implement them, your life isn't going to change a whole lot. It will change slightly, and I understand that, but you guys do need to take action if you want to make this shift. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all the tools and everything that I believe is going to help you moving forward, and I'll share why I think it's so important, because it's changed my life. And I hope for you guys, just for your own personal growth and for improvement upon your life, that you guys take the homework, you start to implement it and make that shift. So, a little bit about myself. Before I move into this, I really struggle now actually talking about my family and my past life, only because I love my parents. I absolutely love them, and I don't say anything that I'm about to share with you guys out of spite or hate for my parents or any resentment. I generally don't wish any other parent in my life, and I'm very grateful for the upbringing that I had. Regardless of how hard it might have been or how damaging it might have been, it brought me to where I am today and turned me into the person that I am as well. So I absolutely respect my parents and understand where they're from as well. So when I share this, it's not out of me, playing the victimary thing, and I love my parents and respect them dearly as well. And I just have to say that for my own good. So my mum and dad struggled quite a bit. My mum was previously married in America. My dad was, in America, in New Zealand. My dad was best friends with her ex-husband. They ended up having an affair. My dad was only sleeping with my mum for like 3 weeks or something until my mum fell pregnant with me. And then came to Australia, had me in Australia, and then my mum was told she couldn't have kids, so I was kind of like a mistake. And then she was told after having me that she couldn't have kids again, then had my brother. That was a bit of a shock to my mum. Then she had the surgery, was like, definitely not having kids again. To give you a little bit of insight into kind of like what my family's like, and like I say, I only share this out of truth because this helps you guys understand me, and it helps me understand myself as well, speaking about this. Spent a lot of my life just not speaking about it because I spent a lot of time as a guy being like, oh, it's not going to help me, right, if I share it or what have you, but I realize it does. My mum and dad only split about, again, like, I think it was like 9 weeks ago. Mum did an assault charge against my dad, restraining order. Then I found out through Facebook about 2 weeks ago that my mum's engaged to another guy. So this is just somewhat what my life is, and my life's been like that my whole entire life. Assault charges, abuse, mentally, physically, throughout my whole entire life, and it's been like that since I could ever remember. So my brother and I were blamed for my father's behaviour. Whenever my dad would get on the piss or do all the stuff, he would have a go at me and my brother, saying that everything that's gone wrong within his life was because of me and my brother. He always blamed everything on us, saying that we're shit children, that he lost everything he was passionate about, he lost his health and fitness, he lost his motorbike racing, he lost all these things because of my brother and I. It was always us, it was never him. He also is the sort of person that talks about how he says this every single time there's ever a debate. He goes, there's 3 truths, right? He goes, the 2 parties, so one person's truth, another person's truth, and then the truth. And he goes, I only speak the truth. That's my dad. Even though he's contradictory, it's his truth. So anyway, I had that chat with my dad. So I was fearful of my parents. I was genuinely scared of being sucked around by my mum as well. I was diagnosed with ADHD at 7 years old. People would know that maybe my family situation, my home situation might have been causing stress in my life that didn't allow me to actually be able to focus at school. You wouldn't know. So diagnosed with ADHD, got told a shit kid at school, isolated, moved out of the school as well in year 3 because I wasn't good enough to be in that school. And then I just joined the wrong groups. If I was being told that I was this certain person by everyone, by all my peers, teachers I'm meant to look up to, my parents that I'm meant to look up to, and every role model telling me that I was a shit person, what am I meant to believe? I'm 7 years old. And so I started to take that on board, and then I started to look at all the people that were also isolated into those same scenarios or those same scenes, and I was like, okay, well, this is me, that's them, let's go there. So I spent my whole life around that sort of environment, violence, drugs, alcohol, trying to be alpha. I was that sort of guy that was always like, I'm fucking alpha, and if anyone said anything wrong to me, I'll just hit them. Best friends or anything. Like, I fought my best friends more than anyone. I was just an angry person. So, I gained a lot, that is pretty stressful. I don't know if you guys agree with me that would cause some sort of stress within your life. The biggest stress that I found though, so moving into where I'm about to share with you guys what I think has changed my life, could change everyone else's life, is the incongruency. I wasn't myself, but I didn't know that. I didn't have the self-awareness around who I was. All I knew were the actions and everything I was doing on a daily basis didn't make me happy within myself. Whenever I hit someone, get into a fight, I do certain drugs, I do certain things to certain people, all sorts of shit, I felt bad about that. But because I didn't have the self-awareness and the understanding of who I was and who I wanted to be, I didn't know that I was meant to make a change, if that makes sense. I was just doing what I knew, or habitually what I knew was to do. It was just like my survival. It was the sort of environment that I was in. My dad never told my brother and I ever looked at the floor in a public space, he would hit us. Because we never meant to look down. We always had to fear in our eyes because no one's meant to fuck with us. If we look scared, then people are gonna fuck with us. We're always like, don't trust anyone until they gain your trust. That's what my dad would say. But then no one's ever gonna trust you because you don't trust anyone. I learned that the hard way. So, I then started working away. So this is when my life changed. I started working away in immigration in detention centres in Derby outside Broome. It was in the middle of nowhere. I didn't really have any phone service. I didn't know where I was or what I was doing. I was like 19, 20 at the time. And I was like, oh cool, new job. So I worked away for 10 weeks. Got away from my family environment, got away from my friends and everything. So this new space, I started to realise like, oh cool, I could actually start to create someone new. I wasn't around the same sort of people in the same environment that I didn't feel like I had to survive. I felt like, I could just be someone different. So during that time, I actually started to exercise and started to look after myself. I gained 14 kilos in those first 10 weeks. I don't know if everyone for those that do follow me on Instagram, I'm doing this like 30 days of self-love, and I'm talking about a little bit more because I realized that a lot of this still impacts me today. I didn't realize I think it will for quite some time. I think we're always on this journey of self-discovery and self-love. I don't think I'm in 30 days time I'm going to love myself and be all holy and enlightened. But it's certainly helping me. But I gained 14 kilos for my first 10 weeks working away, and I didn't notice a thing at all. That was how bad my perception of myself was. It wasn't until I came home and everyone was like, holy shit, you look so different. Because I was something like, I think I went 59 kilos to 73. The reason why I was 59 because I was a speed addict and I had whooping cough because I was just doing shitloads of speed and wasn't looking after myself. That's where I was at. That's all that meant. Speed life. Terrible. I highly not recommend it. I was always on the edge because I thought I needed to protect myself. I was always in protection mode. Like my whole entire life, my whole family, everything was about protecting myself all the time. And that's because my dad was like that. And I love my dad dearly. And I remember I had this chat with him because we had Josh and my business coach, and we did a breakthrough retreat over East. And one of the challenges that I was told to do was call up my dad. That was brutal. Yeah, that was absolutely brutal. But I told him I understand where you're coming from. You know, like he was bullied as a kid, so he got into fighting. He was a fighter from a young age, and told my brother and I how to fight at a young age as well. And so I understood where he came from. He was going through the same struggles I did because that came from his parents as well. His granddad was in the army, became a Catholic priest for 50 years. Mum was brutal. If we ever had our elbows at the table, she would whack us with a spoon. It was like insane. So he had that upbringing. He brought that onto us. I understand. He just didn't. Unfortunately, he didn't have the breakthroughs that I did. You know, I'm lucky that at this age that I've been able to go through the journey that I have to move on from what he wasn't able to move on. So I understand that. I didn't like the person I was because I was incongruent, like I shared with you guys. I had a terrible connection with myself. I didn't know who I was, who I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, and who I wanted to spend my time with. I had no understanding. And that's what I'm trying to share with you today is I think a lot of stress comes from us not knowing where we are, or where we want to go, or how do we get there. I hear it all the time. A lot of people are stressed out because they're living their life in autopilot. They're subconscious as to what they're doing. They don't know. There's no consciousness. It's the whole awakening. You know, if people are awoke or people are conscious, it's because they're consciously moving through their life. They're making conscious efforts. They're creating the intent throughout their life. But how many of us do that? A lot of the time we're not intentionally or consciously moving throughout our life. So, what I did was I started getting self-awareness. When I started to work away, I started to read books. I read the three biggest books I ever read was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, a guy who was a psychologist, psychoanalysis, who went into detention camps, and he realized while he was in detention camps that there were two sorts of people. People that just died overnight, people that unfortunately just died. The other group were people that actually survived. People that, regardless of how much trauma or how much pain that was put upon them in this concentration camps, was not enough for them to die. And then so he started to analyze this as a psychologist does. He started to actually analyze it and realize that the people that survived throughout this and stayed strong and stayed positive throughout the whole entire thing, they had purpose. They had meaning. Whether it was a dog to get home to, whether it was family to get home to. What's so powerful about this book is the book alone is what helped Viktor Frankl stay alive throughout the concentration camps. Because he goes, wow, this is something that I think people need to hear. If this is so powerful within concentration camps that people could just die overnight because they have no purpose, or people could survive because they have meaning, they have purpose, they have something to live for. And so reading that book is his purpose as well, which is such a powerful book. I highly recommend it to everyone. The other one was The Art of Happiness by Dalai Lama, Buddhism, and the other book was Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, which is also a movie shit compared to the book, but that always happens, right? So, I started to gain self-awareness. So what is self-awareness? So how do you do it? Identify your current habits, desire goals, and habits that will help you achieve your goals. Put your hand up if you know where you want to go and what your biggest dream is. That's awesome. But still, it's probably like 20% of the group. Put your hand up if you're acting upon it. Awesome. But we need this purpose, we need this meaning. This is what has helped me move through my life. Because I was suicidal, I didn't want to live anymore. I tried ending my life quite many times. It got to a point where I was like in the detention center, I was like, okay, I'm just going to quit, just give up on life because I couldn't win. Or regardless of what I did, my parents always beat me up. And so I was like, what's the point? Where am I meant to go? What am I meant to do? Thankfully, I got a job where I could get away, so that helped a lot. But we need purpose, we need meaning, we need something to push us forward, and we need to know what that is. If we don't know what that is, we're just going through life on autopilot. We have no passion, we have no purpose. We're going to sleep a ridiculous amount of hours, we're going to spend all of our time on our phones, we're going to watch Netflix for 8 hours a day. We're going to do things that aren't congruent with us and aren't going to bring us happiness. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you guys these activities and speak upon why I think these are so important. If you guys haven't done these before, highly recommend it. Even if you've done them before, highly recommend it. I do this every 3 months. The team and I do it every 3 months as well. And it's made a massive shift within us as persons, as human beings. Helped us in really getting more connected with ourselves, but also helps our business. Because every 3 months we'll actually reflect upon who we are, where we want to go, and how do we get there. And making sure that we're congruent with that and we're on that path. So these are the ways. 16 personality tests. Put your hand up if you've done a personality test before. Put your hand up if you've done 16 personalities. Awesome. There you go. So this is the first one. Personality tests are basically done off of Carl Jung, who used to work with Sigmund Freud. Everyone knows who Sigmund Freud is?
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone know who Carl Jung is?
Yeah.
Cool, Jungians. So Carl Jung studied people, psychoanalysis, and he was trying to figure out the common similarities and archetypes of people. 16 personalities based off that, and Myers-Briggs test as well, which is mother-daughter combo. Highly recommend that. Personality test isn't like, oh, this is you. It's more like, oh, this can be you. These are somewhat similarities of the answers that you give to the questions that you tend to live your life or react to life and what have you. Give it a read and study through it as well. A lot of people just do the personality test and okay, oh, that's me. But what I want you to do is, if you do the 16 personalities, read through it, find the similarities within it, and find things that aren't congruent as well, things that don't match with you, and that should help you in understanding yourself a little bit deeper. The Wheel of Life and Values Identifier, I'm going to give that to you as an Excel sheet. We created this for our boys in our men's program as well, but I'm going to give it to you guys as part of homework for this as well. And it's simple, just questions, which I'll show you in a sec. That'll help you in identifying your values within your life. What are your highest values? Are the 7 areas of life? And then also help you, the Wheel of Life will help you gauge where you are within your life as well. So seeing whether your career is high, ranking higher, whether your career actually is congruent with you. And a lot of the time when people do this, they find that there is incongruency. You know, they'll do the career test, which I'll show you in a sec, and they realize that out of 100%, most of the time it's like 20 to 40%. Most people's careers, when they do this test, they realize like, wow, actually I'm not actually in a career that fulfills me, that doesn't push me to become better and grow, and doesn't bring me happiness. Self-discovery questions as well. Basic, I did write up 50 questions myself in a previous seminar, but I couldn't find it, and I was like, I'm not writing another 50, I'll find it at some point. So I just linked you guys to a website that has 52 questions. Like I said, guys, it's completely up to you whether you put this effort into it to help grow yourself. The more and more you dive into it, it gets easier and easier. If you're finding a blockage and you find it hard to answer questions, that's where you need to be. You need to find comfort in the discomfort. If you're answering a question, that question is like, you're really struggling to find an answer and it makes you feel really tired or stressed to try and answer that question, it's probably the question you should be answering the most. We've got to stop living in our comfort zone all the time. So otherwise we're just staying where we are, we're just in our survival mode, we're just subconsciously on autopilot. Another one, 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, and 3-month goal. We do this every 3 months. The last week of the 12-week cycle, I would take that week to just do pure planning. And normally the weekend off, but during that week I'll still work and what have you, but as all my spare time during that week we spent on trying to discover myself, figure where I've been the last 3 months, set upon the next 3 months based on my goals. That's you, Amanda. I recommend that as well. If you don't do that, put your hand up if you know your goals and you have them written down. Crazy. Something like 62, you're 62% more likely to succeed and achieve your goals you have them written. Something crazy. And without your goals, without them written down, without knowing where you want to go, how are you going to get where you want to go? It's like a GPS. If you're on Google Maps or what have you, you know where you are, you know where you want to go, and you know the path along that. If you don't know where the destination is, how do you expect to get there? And that's one of the biggest problems I see. I've spent time with the business being like, oh, I could do it. And we did get decently far with the business without having set goals that we're doing on a 3-month basis. And since doing it blew up. Since this new quarter, in only like 2 months of actually implementing new goals, keeping them tracked, keeping them stated within the team as well, we're getting something like 60 trials a month within the business with a 70% conversion rate as well. That's simply because we've now stated our goals and we've been consistent and we're staying true to that. Same thing as mission statements, visions, same thing with your values. You need to know your values. If you don't know it, you're not going to live off of those. And a vision board as well, and I'll share that in a sec. So these are the ones that I think genuinely will help you improve your life and stay congruent with what is congruent to you, of who you are and where you want to go. So 60 personalities, super simple, just go to the website, you see at the top right, you got, not top right, in the middle, take the test. Take the test, it takes like 5 to 10 minutes, it's quite fun. I enjoy it, most people that do it actually really enjoy it from what I hear anyway. I haven't had anyone complain about it. And most of the time it's surprisingly true to you. A lot of people go, well, I didn't expect that. A lot of people are kind of iffy on personality tests for whatever reason, I don't know why. People are quite skeptical, I guess. Or self-development for some reason. You know it's development of yourself, but let's be skeptical of becoming better people. It's weird. 60 personalities, do that one. Like I said, when you do it, don't just do it and be like, oh cool, I'm ENFJ, I'm a protagonist. Don't just do that and be like, oh, I'm a protagonist. Like, don't go, okay, well, I'm a protagonist. What is a protagonist? What's within this that states that I technically am as this personality type? What am I congruent with? Like, what do I believe is actually true to me and what isn't true to me? Read over it because you'll get a deeper sense of yourself. It also talks about, it has all the areas of your life as well, so career, relationships, friendships, everything. So it's really cool to actually read over it, and it also has like a recommendation of your personality type, your career path. A lot of time when people do the 60 personalities, people see the career path recommendations, and a lot of people are like, actually, I really want to be that my whole entire life. And so it just re-sparks that. And like I said, this is only one area. Like everything that Joel said earlier with breathing, everything that I'm sharing with you here, everything that Josh is about to share you, these are all non-negotiables. This is what we call non-negotiables. If you're unhappy, if you're stressed out, if you're unhealthy, but yet you're not doing the non-negotiables, if you're not exercising, you're not looking after your health and your nutrition, if you're not doing your goal setting, if you're not doing any sort of self-development, I'm sorry, but you're responsible for some of that. You know, there are obviously some things that might come across your way, but most of the time we're responsible for our own unhappiness and our own health. Most of the time we're responsible for it. And it's when we actually start to reflect upon that, and I had to do that. I was unhealthy, I had issues, and I could have blamed anyone. I could blame my parents, I could blame the situation. I didn't have money. We lived on the dole until I was 16. And my mum was adopted. So the only reason why we got off the dole is because my mum was adopted, met my mum's real parents, she paid for a house, and then we got off the dole. That's literally how we got off the dole. But other than that, we had no money. I had to like steal bread to eat. Gluten. Next one, we're alive. So this is Korea. This is actually someone's results. Don't shoot you, this is someone's results in Korea. That's what I'm saying, like most people's results in Korea are so low. So it comes up the graph as well. I made all this, thank you. And I'm really bad at Excel sheets, so this makes me proud. So the first one is the Korea. So you'll have 10 questions. So there's 10 questions to each 7 areas of life. So there's 70 questions. Every question I came up with, very proud. So this is on the right there, the graph of this person. As you can tell, career and finance are very low for this person. And you can see some of the questions like, my goals are written, displayed, and regularly viewed. This person had decent goals, but still only 4 out of 10. Everything else was only a 1. Clearly didn't like their job, as you can tell. And I'm going to give you guys this as homework. But stuff like, I feel like my talents and skills are well used in my business and job. Put your hand up if you genuinely think that's true for you and your job. Yeah. Stuff like that. I'm constantly improving my professional strengths and weaknesses. My current business job has realistic potential of accomplishing all my financial goals for the next 10 years. You know, these are all questions that we don't reflect upon. We're just subconsciously on autopilot, just going through our job. We don't reflect upon where it's taking us and where we currently are, and whether it affects us in any way. But then, yeah, it comes up with a cool graph. So this person has good partner, good father, good family. Woo! But their growth, health, finance, and career isn't the greatest. And also sharing that when you do the values identifier, you realize like you can't be perfect within all values, so that's understandable. So you need to also choose like what values that you identify with the most, because naturally there's going to be ones that are lower than others. So if you look at the values identifier, this is when we actually identify your top values. So you actually find out this one's where you're at currently, this is what you value the most. Often questions like, what do you talk about the most? Questions like, what do you think about the most, care about the most, spend time on the most, spend money on the most, enjoyably do, and skillfully do. Ask yourself those questions, and you rate it from 7 to 1, 7 being the highest, and you get a board like this. So you see for this person anyway, they rank their health, partner, fun and growth higher than all the other ones anyway. And you'll see the incongruency. Their partner is high anyway, And so you see that they can grow with that. Their fun is somewhat lower, but you can see their health is actually high and the growth is high. But yet here, their health and the growth isn't even remotely on par to the fun. And so that's where they currently are in life, but yet they actually value their health and their growth more than fun, but they're doing more fun. And so reflecting on that, they go, oh shit, actually, no, I really want to be healthier, I want a better mindset, I want to be more positive, but I'm spending too much time doing fun. Let's start to try and create a healthier balance that's congruent to my life. This makes sense, everyone? Yeah, I know if this makes sense to you guys. Cool. Next one, self-discovery questions. There's 52 questions in this as well. And a lot of people go, oh, 52 questions. My life is hard. Shit to do. Got Netflix to watch. They get it. Like Josh, Joel, and myself. Joel said it perfectly earlier. Josh, Joel, and myself, when we started this, and I say Joel as well because Joel's been here from day one, so Joel pretty much has built SMA with us. And Kirsty as well. Kirsty wasn't far behind. What we were able to accomplish, like the amount of effort and the amount of workload we were able to hold back then is like nothing in comparison to what we can hold now. Like genuinely. What we're doing back then, we're like, oh, this is so hard, there's so much work, business sucks. But if we lived back there, I'm like, man, this is a holiday. This is like the best time ever. I'm like sleeping on the beach. Now we're working so much more, but from a better place. You know, we can hold that load so much more. So I genuinely believe a lot of people go, doing less. I feel like a lot of time doing less creates more effort, if that makes sense. In a lot of ways. We're not moving to improving upon our lives, improving our health, improving our mindset, and we're just doing less by laying on the couch and watching Netflix. And I always use Netflix, I don't know why I don't watch Netflix. Just seems like the thing that people do. But you hand up to watch Netflix? Yeah, okay, I got it. What I want you guys to do is start looking at the non-negotiables. Look at the things that are going to make you better before you look at the things that are going to make, like the fun stuff. You know what I mean? Like try and find the non-negotiables. Like put time in for your exercise. Put time in for your health. Put time in for personal development. For setting your goals. For your nutrition. Create this as your base. Do that first, and then put everything else in. I genuinely believe, I guarantee you even, that it will benefit your life tenfold. Get that base, non-negotiables. They even talk about this in the one thing. They even talk about this from every successful, but we don't know why we can't sleep, and then it just keeps happening. So answer these questions. 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, 3-month plan. Like I said, I highly recommend every single 3 months reflect upon this. Do it in 12-week cycles. It takes 90 days to create a habit. I genuinely believe creating like a plan for the next 90 days, the next 12 weeks, the next 3 months. Create a plan for that period, and then stick to that. You'll see, like it's quite consistent. We have it with our team as well. Like we'll go hard. The first 9 weeks like solid because we're so congruent and our path is so clear. There's no questions. And ever since doing this, our team have just kicked ass. I'm really excited for these 12 weeks. Is we're actually like on a whole different level. All of us are doing transformation to our health and fitness. We're now starting to implement that because business took a priority for a while. Like I said, we're humans as well, so I'm standing here telling you to do the non-negotiables, but still I slide and miss out on this as well. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. But I highly believe in this because if we see the cycle, we'll do 9 weeks, we're just so clear, so consistent, everything's so perfect. The last 3 weeks start to slow down a bit. Now imagine if you're doing your whole entire life like that. Imagine you spend 20 years without doing a plan, without doing any sort of vision of where you want to go. And they've got 20 years of just kind of autopilot. There's no purpose, there's no intent. We need intent. What are you doing and why are you doing it? Where are you, where you want to go, and how do you get there? We need to know that, and everything that we do in life needs to be intentional. It shouldn't be on autopilot. Otherwise, we're living other people's lives. So write out each 7 areas of your life with the values identify in real life. So this is how I start out my 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, 3-month plan. First, I get congruent with myself, so I figure out my 7 areas of life, the values identify in real life, because you want to set goals out upon your values. A lot of time we set out goals, we don't actually know what our highest values are, so we just set out goals. And that could be anyone else's goals, or goals that we believe we should be doing. It's like, oh, the whole thing of like, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that. But who told you that you should be doing this, or you should be doing that? So you need to get congruent with yourself and find out what you want to do. Then write out bigger specific goals, go hard, go big, don't be scared. People get scared because we're scared of judging ourselves, but fear of failure. I love failure because it helps me learn and move forward. I'd rather fail mini scales and succeed on a big scale. They consistently succeed in this minuscule little scales, but fail on a big scale of what I want to achieve in life. This is how it is. We listen to every successful person in the world. And I'm not saying success is in career and money, I'm talking about success in happiness and health and fitness as well. They all believe in the same thing, big specific goals, and if you fail, that's just a lesson. That's you learning to help you move forward. Fail on a mini scale, succeed on a big scale. Or succeed on a small scale, fail on a big scale. It's up to you guys. Plan one weekend ever 3 months to reflect upon your goals and create a new plan. I highly believe in this. It's changed my life. Every week, put aside a minimum of 2 hours to reflect on your goals and plan your week as well. I do this as well. The team do this as well. Every single week, we just reflect upon that. So we don't have to think too far. It's only 7 days. We're not trying to hold everything in our brain for 20 years. You go, okay, done my 3-month plan, done my 1 week plan. All I have to do for the next 7 days is wait till my next plan, and then I can reflect on my previous week, plan my next week. That's all I have to think about. Instead of trying to retain everything for 20 years, painful. Creates so much stress in our lives because we don't know what's happening. Vision board. This is my vision board. It's on my phone. I love it on my phone. Like I think Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Aubrey Marcus, Joe Rogan, all the people that listen to podcasts, Tim Ferriss. Everyone always talks about vision boards. The Secret. Put your hand up if you've watched The Secret before. You know what The Secret is. Awesome. So law of attraction. They always talk about always reflecting upon your goals. The more and more you see where you want to go and what you want to do, the more and more it's going to be ingrained in your head. It's just going to be consistent and growth. So create a vision board. I just have it up on my phone. I just have it as a wallpaper, which is really cool. So every single day I just look at it to remind myself of where I want to be and what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'm on autopilot and I don't want to be on autopilot. And I think that's it. That is it, guys. Thank you.
Could you just clap, please? Again?
No,
we
dude.
got that. Thanks, yeah.
How are you feeling, guys?
Gangster.
A little bit. Thank you. A little bit bloated. If you guys want to know about that.
Oh, nice segue.
Josh is about to share that.
Introducing blotting, everyone.
I tried to see whether dairy affects me. I've never had bloating or cramping. To the point that I'm in this industry and I help people with bloating and cramping. I was like, what's bloating and cramping on Google? Fucked me up. Terrible. Anyway, now you know everything about me.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Enjoy, guys.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Noah Pool, everyone. If anyone's wondering, yes, that is a photo of me on Nav's vision board. Top right. I'm kidding, I'm actually the one with the long hair in the top middle. Alright, thanks for laughing at my joke, everyone. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys. So, stress from the inside out. Stress from the inside out. Ooh, what could that be, Josh? Who here likes fruit?
Yeah.
Yeah, put your hand up if you like fruit. Nice and high, nice and high. Yeah, cool fruit. Okay. Has anyone ever had a fruit like this?
I am.
The whole crowd's like, ooh. So, yeah. Oh. See where I'm going with this? Stress from the inside out. Often in our lives, when we look in the mirror, we look at others, we're like, man, that guy's killing it, or she's killing it. They're doing all right. They look fine. And then we tell ourselves, we're like, I'm fine. I'm all sweet. But a lot of the times, whether we are aware of it or not, we're probably experiencing this to some degree. And what I'm going to share with you today is the honest truth that every single one of us right now, and for the rest of our lives, will be experiencing this to some degree of our lives. Because this is a part of nature, it's a part of physiology. It's also massively a part of the modern world that we live in as well, and I'll get deeper into that. But understanding that this is a thing, for me to bring the awareness to you guys that this is actually happening to you at every single moment of your day, then you can learn to manage it. Such as breathing as well, it's a very important thing. We need air and oxygen, right? Learning to manage that will dramatically improve your ability to live. And therefore everything gets better, right?
Because the one thing that we all share is life. And it's very important. So, this is me 5 weeks post-surgery. This is me looking like a shiny apple. I don't look too bad. I'm on crutches. Not too bad, right? In my head, I'm like, oh, I've lost so much weight, lost so much muscle. Because I was a little bit further ahead, so to speak. But still look fine. Nothing to complain about, right? But the insides is what I'm going to share with you is what was happening. So if anyone doesn't like blood, just the next side's got a fair bit of blood in it. If you don't want to see it, just close your eyes, look down, whatever, and then I'll let you know when the next slide is back on. So 3, 2, 1. This is my ankle. This is my ankle the morning after my surgery. So if anyone's heard of an arthroscopy, I had an arthroscopy, just a minor clean out, minor surgery. And then I went to go do wee-wees and then it popped. So I was in a hospital and that happened and I was lucky enough that my girlfriend at the time managed, I was like, give my phone, Jess, and I got to film it, put it on Instagram. hence the shape of the image. That's my ankle. Okay, now the blood's gone if anyone wasn't. Everyone actually looked at it, thanks guys. So this was my post-surgery diet. Okay, so what ended up happening was my ankle burst and then I had to go.
No trigger warning for that.
Hey.
You just blink back with no trigger warning.
Oh yeah, we've all seen it now. you all know me, guys. This was after my surgery and I had to go back into theatre again. So I ended up having 2 surgeries in 24 hours and what was meant to be an overnight surgery ended up me being in bed for 4 weeks. I was on crutches for 6 weeks and 2.5 years later my ankle is still swollen, it's still bruised and I'm still nursing some of the nerve damage. Not a problem, I'm moving through it, but it wasn't to plan, right? Blessing in disguise, as I'll share with you in a second. So my post-surgery diet was 12 Panadol a day. Has anyone had Tramadol before? Tramadol? Has anyone had Oxys? Oxycodone? I was on Oxys and they didn't work, so I moved up to Tramadol. The max dosage for Tramadol per day is actually 6, but they doubled me up. 4 cephalates a day, 1 naproxen, 2 Tapentadol a day, and then once I moved off that, weeks 5 to 12, it was actually a little bit longer than that. I was on 6 Nurofen a day, which was max dosage. Sometimes I was taking up to 10 as well, every single day. The hard one was actually straight out of surgery. I was on that equates to over 30 pills per day, and my dosage was every 2 hours. So I wasn't able to sleep for longer than anywhere between 120 minutes to about 90 minutes. I was averaging about 90 minutes sleep because there was an alarm constantly going off, and I had to kind of like take some pills, like drink some water, and then slowly pass out again. And half the time it was my beautiful ex-girlfriend who was just sticking them down my throat because I was barely conscious at the time. That was actually like the schedule that we wrote of every time I had to take the medication. And my lifestyle following that was I was averaging 4 to 6 hours sleep per night. I was in a 5 out of 10 minimum pain just because of the throbbing and the swelling. Because I had no appetite and I was having so much medication, I was on about 2 to 3 meals a day. When I was like just coming out of surgery, I was averaging like 1 small sandwich and a banana a day. Because that's all I was capable of. My body wasn't hungry. Or when Joel mentioned earlier on that you either get really hungry or not hungry, mine was just not hungry. And I was stuck in bed with my leg elevated, and for 4 weeks and for me who's like highly active, it was I was a completely different person. And that itself was stressful. The biggest one was actually the work pressure. It's about an 8 out of 10 intensity because we had kind of just launched the gym. We were only about maybe 8 months into the journey and we finally had some momentum. So I said, sweet, I can actually take some time off to get my surgery done. And then I was like, yeah, see you tomorrow, guys. Be back in a bit. Had my surgery and then it all went downhill, but then obviously Nav had to take the entire workload, and it was 4 of us at the time, and Nav and us were business owners, so especially in the startup phase of business, you got to do everything. So not only was I experiencing this, Nav was experiencing that times 10 because he was having to cater for everything that I was normally looking after in the business, as well as that was the phase where we didn't know what we were doing. Sounds like today. But this is basically my diet, right? This is what I was experiencing coming out of the surgery. So here I was, the shiny apple on the outside, big grit teethy smile. I was like, hey everyone, I'm back on my crutches, and I'm a positive guy. I'm very vibrant all the time, I like to think I am. But on the inside, I cannot deny that I was struggling. I was absolutely struggling, but you just put the mask on, go to the gym, hey everyone, I hope you're having a great day everyone, then back in the office, oh my god, this is so hard. So after 6 months, I had made no progress at all. Until we had this come in. So as you guys know, we sell ATP stock. We started talking about it and I was like, all right, let me try some of this stuff because I want to know what we're selling. So I had this, right? And by the time I had this, I was still on 6 Nurophens a day and still no progress on my ankle and still highly stressed and both emotionally, mentally and physically, right? I took 2 of these, which is just like your standard dosage, and within 15 minutes, I felt the same experience that most of you guys experienced when you were doing the breathing exercise. You know when, like, if we were in like a pressure cylinder right now, and that pressure just drops, like this, and I had that, and I'm like, I felt like I just like drained a little bit, but it was like imagine wearing like an extra small turtleneck or something, and I was like, it just, someone took it off from me. I'm like, wow, like, what's that?
Extra small turtleneck.
I made that on the spot, thanks, John. So I'm like, what's going on? I took two of these things, and this is 4 ingredients: turmeric, ashwagandha, rhodiola, and shashandra berries. 3 of them are adaptogenic herbs, just plants. Right, and turmeric's just a root, right? We all had turmeric in our turmeric lattes and stuff like that. And I'm like, you're telling me that this shelf item has given me, within 15 minutes, has had more impact on my overall well-being, happiness, health and physiology than the last 6 months of everything that doctors had prescribed me. So I was like, sweet, I've now got something to work with. But that really, like, you know when you kind of like, well, how, something inside you goes, well, okay, well, I need to know more about this because something has changed and I need to investigate for myself. So I became very, very curious, right? Very curious. Less stress equals healing. Because Cortirex, the Cort stands for cortisol, which is a hormone that is associated with stress, as most of you may know now. So I'm like, I didn't take this for healing, I took this to understand what we were selling on our shelves. So if less stress equals healing, I'm like, hey, I can actually get back to who I was. And that was a really big thing for me. It was a really big thing for me. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about inflammation, because what I was experiencing was inflammation around my whole entire body as a result of the stress, right? And then that was kind of, well, that was the foundation of my deterioration of everything, my quality of life, and so down to inflammation. So inflammation, a localized physical condition in which part of the body becomes reddened, swollen, hot, and often painful, especially as a reaction to injury or infection. You know when you're like spraying something, you roll an ankle or something like that, it goes red, you get the swelling, that's inflammation, right? And that's the body's defense and repair mechanism. That's your immune system saying, hey, I'm going to sort this out for you and I'm going to look after you. But what I was suffering from was systemic inflammation, which is also known as like global inflammation. So you could call it like acute inflammation, or something is like when this joint's like, you know, not happy or something and swelling. But I was experiencing systemic inflammation to the point where my entire body was kind of trying to heal itself, but it was attacking itself at the same time, because the same thing, like a deer cannot permanently run from a lion 24/7. You and I, we can't stay awake 24/7. We can't keep sprinting 24/7. So if your fight or flight response, as Joel mentioned, is constantly elevated, it is the equivalent of getting a brick and putting it on your accelerator pedal and say, off you go, do your thing. And what happens? The engine blows up or something, your tires will burst or you crash into something. And you can't live life with the brick on the accelerator pedal, and that's exactly what I was experiencing. So I kind of come to the realization that less inflammation equals less stress, then less stress equals less inflammation, and I realized I could close this loop which set me in the direction to actually heal my life, which is a very exciting concept for me since the last 12 months of my life have been quite a struggle. So, my physical body, right, what I decided to do was I looked at what actually contributes to inflammation, and let's just get rid of them. Let's get rid of the actual triggers. Let's get rid of the actual stimulus to said inflammation. Bit of research. Hey Joel, what do I do? Joel's like, well, this, and this, and this. These are some of the things that the biggest and most common, which is why I'm so excited to share with you, causes of inflammation. So what the link we have here that I'm sharing with you guys is inflammation is the mold from the inside out. It's the stress response that your body's experiencing. And if we can eliminate that, that's going to allow us to live a better quality of life. Does that make sense? Yeah? Yeah? So, I just realised I slightly didn't format correctly. Lost a bit of my L. Apologies. Okay, I've got it away. So my physical body, eliminate the Nurofen and the medication that I was prescribed, got rid of them, right? And then I looked at some of the biggest things that contribute to inflammation around the body. Gluten, dairy, caffeine, sugar, and sweeteners. Sweeteners not so much, but sweeteners aren't really that great for your gut health. And also sweeteners just to tune your body to sweet stuff, which is sugar, which causes inflammation. Does that make sense? So sweeteners just as much more from like a mental side of things as well. Because if anyone's ever done, has anyone ever just like quit sugar for like a couple of weeks and then had like an apple or like had a piece of fruit and you're like, it feels like it tastes like it's been on steroids because it's just so damn sweet. But it's because you've eliminated, your body has readapted to being a natural human and not used to the artificial sugar, right? So I was like, okay, let's eliminate all this kind of stuff. For my mind and my emotions, this is one slide on the mental stuff because I'm not going too deep into it, but I explored meditation, journaling, visualization, breath work, as you guys did, and ancient wisdom. Ancient wisdom was understanding how people live with inner peace. Because as we all know, we have these physical stimuli to stress, but the moment mentally we think of something, if we think of our boss being it, or we think about mortgage, or we think of financial stress, or we think of just bad memories. These all contribute to but is stress. So I was like, well, who's the most peaceful people on the planet? And they're people who meditate regularly. They're people who Buddhists, monks, all these spiritual beings, but they're just walking around like nothing matters. I'm like, I want some of that. So I explored ancient wisdom. For me particularly, meditation, visualization, and ancient wisdom were the three biggest things that really impacted my life personally. And that's what I'm going to share on the mind and emotions. So back to the body stuff, right? So gluten. Does anyone kind of not know what gluten is? Gluten? No, Josh. You're pretty familiar with gluten? Gluten's basically found in just wheat-based products most commonly known. So think of anything that's got wheat in it or flour in it, that's got gluten in it. Has anyone ever tried to eliminate gluten for a while and actually had 3-4 weeks off gluten? Yeah. Jake, how did you? Are you?
I don't eat gluten at all.
Yeah, and did you used to eat gluten?
Yeah.
Yeah, and talk to me from point A to point B.
At point B, I feel great all the time, and point A, I feel like shit.
There we go. Good summary. Thanks, Jake. Perfect.
I didn't even sit in the audience and say that.
I didn't pay him to be here, guys. So, gluten is something that I was heavily into because just bread. I just love bacon and eggs on toast. Oh, bacon and eggs on toast, my favourite thing in the world. I have a lot of favourite things in the world, like this gym, right? Next one's dairy. Who likes dairy? Okay, let's be honest. Who likes cheese?
Yeah.
I do like cheese. Okay, Jesus.
Cheese, bacon, eggs on toast.
Yeah, cheesy bacon egg.
In the gym.
In the gym. So dairy is another big contributor to inflammation. Who here gets bloating or has felt bloated? Hey, Nav. Nav, why do you feel bloated today? Dairy! Hey! So, just to re-summarise what Nav did, Nav on Thursday, I think, I just decided to load himself up with dairy to see what it would do to him. And now Nav feels sick. Okay? I'll share my story of dairy in a second. So, Alright, I'll share it right now then. So what I did, right, I did the gluten, dairy, caffeine, sugar and sweeteners. I made my New Year's resolution. I was so motivated. I started in December. This was 2 years ago now. And I was like, I'm going to cut the lot and see what I can eliminate and see what happens to my life, right? So I went on this train when I started. I just cut the lot, gluten, dairy, caffeine, sugar, sweeteners. Did that for a couple of weeks. And then it was here. We had an event here, the SMA first birthday. And I ate one of Natalie's like homemade sausage rolls. And I felt, not joking, I felt like I had an instant hangover. Because once I eliminated these, and this is only my own personal experience, once I eliminated these things, I ate this sausage roll, and then all of a sudden I just felt a little bit more Asian. I was like, I just felt slower, anxious, that's the sweet. I was like, what's going on? And I just felt a little bit more like, this is your IQ, right? And then like, just like, you know when you like take the icing of the cake, you know, this belongs to me, that was like someone just took a slither of my intelligence away, and I was just a little bit slower, a little bit more, I felt like a little bit heavier. I was just kind of like wading through a bit of water, but it was dry, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I went around into the office and had some quarter X again, and then 10 minutes later, it alleviated again. I'm like, wow, that's actually inflammation. And I ran over to Joel, and I was like, Joel, I think I felt inflammation for the first time. And he's like, that's brain fog. And brain fog is a symptom of inflammation. Has anyone here had brain fog before? A brain frog. Anyone had a brain frog before? So these are all the things, these like feeling lethargic, and food comas. Who's had a food coma? Right? Yeah. Food comas are just a full place of inflammation in the body, because the body's just like, the body can only deal with so much, right? Same as like you got $1,000 in your account right now. This is your savings account. This is so much. This is your spendings account. But it's like putting all of your money into one area, into one account, all your energy into one bucket, all your water into one plant, however you want to look at it. When your body is now dealing with inflammation, it's like, okay, this is what I was intending to do with my day, and then like, oh, we've got some inflammation, we've got something inside the body that we need to fix. So it's like, I'm gonna take some of my energy, I'm gonna take some of my focus, I'm gonna take some of my health, and I'm gonna take all this energy and I'm gonna put it on dealing with inflammation. So now my army, my immune system, my army that works for me, is now fighting a battle that's internal, inside our own barracks. And then we can't command and conquer, right? So let's play a game. Well, actually, no, I didn't finish my story. So when I fully committed to my New Year's resolution, I went 3 months, 12 weeks, completely free, right? My first coffee set me up the wall. I had gluten. I went up to my mentor's house, my business mentor. Lovely wife, made a homemade pie. You'll be right, have some. I'm like, well, it's homemade. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, yes, boss. Had it, diarrhea the whole next day. A couple of weeks later, we were running a seminar and the Chobani, the yogurt people came. They dropped off like all these cartons of, here's some free samples for your gym. I'm like, sweet. I was like, might as well, free sample. Diarrhea the whole day. Well, I'm not going back to dairy and gluten. So that was my experience. That's my personal experience with it. So let's play a game. 1 point per image. If you like or regularly consume any of the things I'm about to put on the screen, you get 1 point. And I'll tell you what the result is at the end, right? Ready? Go. Pasta. That includes all of the pastas, right? The spirally ones.
Is that 6 points to get all of them? Is that how it works?
Yeah. And there's some bonus points at the end as well. So we've got pasta, we've got bread, we've got cereal. These are pastries, pies and pastries, pizza. Beer. Jacku. Beer. Alright, next one. Ladies. Yogurt, cheese, milk, ice cream. Well, that's fine. Sugar. Who likes sugar in their coffee? Ooh. Did someone say coffee? Don't take my coffee away from me, Josh. can just throw some numbers at me. What do we got? Let's just yell some numbers out. 3, 10, 9. And here's the bonus points. If you have a cheese-loaded pizza, that's dairy and gluten. And cereal-loaded milk-loaded cereal. Specifically cow's milk or whatever. Sugar in your coffee. And milk in your coffee. Who has sugar and milk in their coffee? You don't have to put your hand up, but I can see the eyes looking at me. Every point. Sorry. But Josh, how will I continue to live? Don't take away my coffee, my pizza, my cereal. No, don't do it. For every point that you have, that is 1 point for you to make potentially, highly potentially, massive impact to your health. Massive impact to your health. Every single one of those things that as a point on your scorecard is the opportunity for you to explore that by eliminating that particular thing, how that could impact your life. Now, the only way to really do these things is to eliminate the entire category of gluten. Because you know, I just stopped eating pizza and gluten's fine, because you might still be having cereal, this kind of stuff. So, Josh, how will I continue to live? No, what do I do? It's okay. There are dairy and gluten-free options everywhere you go. There's gluten-free cereal, there's almond milk, there's coconut milk, there is gluten-free pizzas. Even when you go out to restaurants, there's gluten-free options. And all it takes is just a little bit of TLC, tender loving care for yourself, a little bit of vigilance and observancy to make sure that you're just looking after yourself and making decisions at the right time, right? As for caffeine, that's just got to be a bit of self-discipline. But my challenge to you is to work it out for yourself, right? Because you need to work it out for yourself because it's your life and you're the only person in your life that can hold you accountable in every moment of your life. We have people come see us, our clients come see us one-on-ones and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, we cannot hold that individual's hand every single moment of the day. Because it's Saturday night, I'm doing my thing. I'm going to sound healing tonight. I'll be chilling out doing meditation while some dude plays a didgeridoo to my soul. I can't be there like slapping coffee out of your mouth. I'm like, no pizza, don't do that. I'm doing my healing. So you guys need to work it out for yourself, okay? So the way I want you to do it is to eliminate and then reintroduce. And you can go Josh Hardy, like, yeah, let's do a lot at the same time. Caffeine, dairy, gluten, sweetness, all these things. You can do that. Because I did it and it worked for me and it was a profound experience for me. But to be a bit more practical, okay, this month is dairy-free month. Guys, I'm doing a dairy-free challenge. Hey friends, Facebook, we're doing a dairy-free challenge. Just let your friends know. Let your family know. That way everyone can cater for you and if your family dinners, all that kind of stuff. If you're going out tea, coffee with friends, be like, look, like, is there gluten-free options at this place? Just work it out for yourself and say, I'm going to go gluten-free for this month, I'm going to go dairy-free this month, I'm going to go caffeine-free for this month, right? Because once you experience for yourself, because my experience is going to be completely different to yours. Generally speaking, as human beings, there's a good chance it's going to be very similar, but because we're so vastly unique, for you to actually experiencing yourself, because some people might actually go back to gluten. I've had clients that have eliminated gluten for a month. They say, Josh, I feel great, but you know what? I like beer, so I'm gonna just keep drinking my beer, which is cool. But at least you understand, because every single one of my clients that have gone gluten-free and ones that did go back to it, didn't have as much gluten, and they're so much more aware, and they're so much more grateful for the experience of knowing what it's like to eliminate gluten. This is not a permanent thing. For me, it kind of is. Even though, yes, I had gluten last night because I went out with dinner with the boys and we just ordered a giant feast and like, we'll when in Rome, let's load up. But the reason I was able to eat gluten with the boys was because I knew that on my health scale, I topped up. Because I've spent the last couple months being gluten-free and also I strategically have a tiny bit of gluten every single week just so that my body can handle it. Which means I don't have diarrhea. So I don't have diarrhea today, guys, by the way. I'm safe, guys. I'm safe.
It's not in the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, God, whoa. But that's it. Try it for yourself. and in the Q&A that we're going to step into now, we can answer some more specific questions. But I'm going to leave it to you guys to take full responsibility and full ownership of your health to see how this can impact your life. Because again, I can't slap the pizza out of your mouth all the time. I might do
Only
sometimes.
sometimes.
Maybe sometimes. Right? And just so you know, Coles has a very awesome gluten-free Turkish bread, which is the base of my gluten-free pizzas. These guys have had them. Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
So good.
He's Asian, so he's really good at cooking. Yeah, and cleaning and sewing. I'm good at cleaning though, not sewing. Thank you very much, Josh Hardy.
Yes. Thanks, Miss. Do you want to clap it? Yeah, you got to press the gas. Yeah. Testing.
Q&A time. Hit us with your Q's.
Look at days.
Look at those.
I've got a cue.
Hold up.
Oh,
Never mind.
I was just wondering, there was like a lot of mentioning of like different literature. I was wondering in the homework, was that potentially going to be there?
Yes, the entire slideshow will be getting sent to you guys as well, and then everything relevant to what we've discussed will be in there as well. And then on that note, if you go through the homework at the time, you know when you're like, oh, I forgot to ask this question at the seminar. Once you receive the homework, you go through it and the slideshow. Oh yeah, once you respond. Sorry viewers watching at home. Once you receive that, you can also email back to us and be like, hey guys, can I get some more clarity on this particular thing as well? So yeah, if anything gets missed, we can answer that again. And plus you come into the gym all the time anyway, so we're here. So yeah, but you will, every single person gets the slideshow and the homework with it as well.
Don't be scared, guys.
What was the name of the book, the first book you mentioned?
The very first book I mentioned, can't remember. What book did I mention? Which?
You said about the Dalai Lama.
Oh, that one Nabs, yeah.
The one before the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, the Trump one.
Yeah.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for
Frankl.
Yeah, you'll find it.
Victor. Yeah,
It is probably ranked among the top books for depression as well. It's one of the top ranking books ever.
Yeah.
It's really good. Very powerful.
I actually made Nav bought it for my dad. My dad retired and he got a little bit miserable, so Nav got the book for Christmas and he's slightly less miserable. Yeah, you go Dad.
Does everyone have stuff? Put your hand up for the stuff that you're going to go home and implement afterwards. Cool. I think it's really important that we now act. Yeah, really like do something different. Make a change. I think change is important. I think change is probably the most important thing. Really, life is constantly changing. Everything's constantly changing. If we don't change, we don't move. Everything changes around us. Then I feel like we go backwards. I think a lot of people think, oh, okay, well, I'm not moving forward, so I'm just stagnant, right? I'm just staying still. I think that's not the case. I think we go back. I think as we age, like we're aging, our body's degenerating, we're getting older. Everything's changing within our life, but then also everything around us is moving forward. Should be anyway. So if life is moving, we're not moving. It's not that you're staying still. I think it's you're moving back. Yeah. I think in fact, like just with the way that life is propelling forward and things are constantly changing, we're not moving and we're not growing and we're not changing. It's not a case of us just staying where we are now. I think it's a case of us actually moving backwards. And me feeling that way helps me propel myself moving forward as well.
I like that. One side note, a lot of people get caught in the trap of they'll read a book, they'll go to a seminar and it feels good and they think they've done something for their life, but sitting here right now, unless you're actually not. So we call that mental masturbation. You're just playing with ideas in your head. If you learn something, action it, otherwise you're bullshitting yourself. And that's just me being honest from the bottom of my heart. Like every self-help book I read, I will literally find a concept and I'll battle test that every day until I've incorporated that into my understanding of life, and that's how I've learned. So many people have read so many books on business and all these things, and then they don't move anywhere because they feel good about reading it, but you're not doing it to feel good, you're doing it for the result, right? So if you've got something out of the breathing, go breathe. If you know you need to do your values, do your values. Otherwise, what's the point of having come here? It's cool, but it's a nice gesture to yourself, but the true gesture is actually implementing it in your life.
And I never want to be that person.
What do you mean that? Like, yeah.
I never want to be that person. You're those people that have all the knowledge in the world, right? Like they're so confident in knowing all these facts, and that we get it all the time. Like people are like, oh, you should do this with business, but they don't have their own business. You know, like people are like, oh, I know all the answers, but I haven't implemented it. I haven't done anything. I don't want to be that person, personally. Like if I'm interested in something and I'm passionate about something, I want to act upon it and create something with that knowledge. I don't want to be someone that just mental masturbating all the time, just has all this. Sometimes. Feels good sometimes. Won't lie. So I don't want to be that person. Because to me it annoys me. I don't, not for a place of like judgment aspect of it. I'll take awareness of that. Like sometimes it is judgment of them, but most of the time it's just I can see that person also regretting the fact that they know all this knowledge but haven't acted upon it. You know, I can feel that because I can feel it within them because I can feel it within myself. If there's things that I'm passionate about and I have knowledge on and I have awareness of, but yet I'm speaking upon it but not acting upon it, I know I regret that and I know that affects me in a way. I don't want that for anyone else. I don't want that for you guys. So I don't know if you guys feel that as well. If you do, act upon it.
Just to layer on that, as me and Nav masturbate each other's heads. Not minds, mentally. Has everyone heard like knowledge is power, right? Well, that's a lie. Like applied knowledge is power. Like knowledge is potential energy. Like if I read a book, let's say I pick something up, I've read the book, I've got this much energy, but until I let it go and let it move, it's just potential. And potential is unrealized, it's not real. So you can have all the potential in the world, but unless you realize it. So we've given you some potential, do something with it. We've pulled the lackey band a little bit. Whoa! Let it fly. So we're the bow and you guys are the arrow. I hope you get the point.
Sorry.
No, apologize. You ask some questions.
Okay. I'm going to try and explain this, so bear with me. So you've got like the 3 months and everything kind of set out plans. How do you know, like, do you have any key warning signs that you guys look out for when you get to a certain point? How do you identify that maybe this is what I thought was the correct kind of plan, but it turns out it's not?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to go for it?
Yeah, great question. Which is why I think which is why I like doing 2 hours of planning every single week to reflect upon that. And that's why I think it's just important to do those 3-month goals as well, because the more and more you do it, the more and more you question yourself, the more and more you reflect, the more and more you goal set, the more and more you'll could grow with yourself and understand yourself, gain more awareness. So as you question more 3-month goals, you get to a point, or when will you get to a point of when it's not true to you anymore? Is that what your question is?
Yeah, like that, or like, do you guys have like, I don't know how to explain, like
fine.
set thresholds where it's like, oh, okay, like said thing maybe happening, or things to like kind of look out for, where it's like for example, like if you took the 16 personalities and you thought that that was what you were, but then like in the future it's kind of like, oh, hang on, that's what I thought, but this is like actually, I don't know.
No, that makes sense, and that's what technically should happen in a lot of ways, in some essences, especially if you're very new to this sort of self-discovery and self-awareness, because your understanding of yourself right now, even when you gain self-awareness and you change and move into a different zone, you have different experiences, life changes, things change, it's always constantly changing, which is why I think it's so important to do every 3 months and also to reflect every week. Our team do window stretch on a weekly basis because it's important to reflect, because things change. And it's more, the more and more you do it, the more you get congruent with yourself and you can pick up on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think just the habit alone of you doing it consistently, so every single 3 months, do a big goal set, every week do a goal set, and you just get more, you get better at it. And you get more congruent with yourself, you understand yourself better. But I think it only comes with the action of doing it. Otherwise, if you're not reflecting and spending time asking yourself questions, or doing goal setting, or doing your personality test every 3 months, you're not going to know. So yeah, that does happen. Like, thankfully mine's been the same over the last 5 years. I've done it shitloads of times and it's been the same every time. And every single time I'm like, maybe I'm just like answering the questions to get the result. And so sometimes I try and trick myself and try and like, but it's always the same every time.
So trick yourself with the dairy?
But the more and more you do it, the more you discover. And without doing it, you won't discover. That helps.
You also get to change your mind.
Exactly. Like, things change. Your mind changes. But you won't know that your mind's changed until you've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only way to know is if you do it.
How do you stop judging yourself?
Great question.
As in, you need to be critical of yourself to a certain degree, but where do you know where the line is? It's easy to become too critical of yourself, and then you become discouraged, and then that leads to a spiral. You undo what you've done.
100%. Very good question. I think this is what we all deal with. Like me personally, I still deal with that. So that's a great question because as someone, and I know us three do it a lot because we are very hard on ourselves in a positive way. We believe that love is also challenging in essence. Like love shouldn't always just be like, oh, you're overweight, cool, love you for you. It's like, no, okay, you're overweight, you're dealing with issues, this is a health problem. You need to not judge yourself, you need to have awareness and take responsibility for that. I think it's a hard question because it all depends on the person. I think when it gets to a point where it is setting you back and holding you and paralyzing you, that's probably where the line is. You should have awareness and you should question yourself and you should reflect upon yourself and see the things that you're doing might be damaging, and you should pick up on that. But you should pick up on it in the essence of moving you forward. If it gets to a point where you're judging yourself so hard and it's paralyzing you, moving you back, I think it's just a level as to what you're, as level to how you're doing it.
First is like, a lot of what Nav said, I'll reiterate in my own words, but first is like, whose standards are you living up to? Like, are they your own? Are they true to you? Or is it what like your parents told you to do? Is it what society's telling you to do? Is it what like your friends are telling you to do? Is it from comparison? Is it from deep within? That's the big one. Because a lot of the time, our nature is to go this way, but everyone else is going that way, and then you're trying to force yourself to go that way and judging yourself when it sucks, when you really should be going that way, if that makes sense. So it's listening to like, is this my standard, or is this something I've picked up along the way? Like, do I actually give a shit about living up to this thing, or have I been fed that I have to live up to that thing? That's a big one. What Nav was talking about with challenge, like, our voice in our head is very critical, and it's like, imagine if you had like a really stern father and no loving mother. The sternness would just beat you down. But if you had nurturing from your mother and sternness from your father together, that'll help you grow. So it's really important to challenge yourself, but it's also important if you're overly challenging yourself, being too critical, to support yourself more. So if you've got too much challenge and no support, you're just going to beat yourself down because you're never good enough. If you've got too much support and no challenge, you're just going to be like, oh, everything's fine, and you're not going to move. So you need to pay attention to your dialogue. Like sometimes you need to be more gentle on yourself and consciously practice that. But the biggest one is like, is the standard yours? Like, is it some should do that you think you need to live up to just because someone told you should do it, or do you actually at your core not give a shit? Because once you clear that, you're good.
Yeah, it's like
Me and Nav, like, Josh is just patient.
this is a whole challenge that a lot of people have. Like, we're very spiritual and we're moving to the spiritual scene, trying to the whole acceptance. That's what a lot of hippies move into. But I think the issue that they have within that is just too much acceptance. Right? They accept everything. They don't challenge themselves. They don't change where they're at and want to move forward. So they're just in this like acceptance world. Like, oh, cool. I'm gonna like lay down and smoke weed all day and not do anything. I think both, like you're saying, the nurturing, the challenging, it's like acceptance of where you are now. Like it's so important to accept where you are now because you can't change that. I can't change where I am now. There's so many things I want to change within myself, and there's things that I'm working on now, and I will continue to work on that because there's so many things I want to work on myself. But in the past, I've done what you're talking about, and I still do that now in some degree. I don't think I'm ever going to stop doing that. I think it's always going to be a part of me, but I think it's always going to just learn how to accept where you are now, understand where you want to go, challenge yourself to move into that space, also accept the fact that you are where you are now, today, right in this moment. You beating yourself up about that and having negative thoughts around yourself aren't going to move you forward. So find a positive way to accept where you are now. Don't hold that judgment to a point of, debilitation. It's one of you dropped out. Debilitation. The big word. I wanted to say it, but I don't know how to say it. So accept where you are now, know where you're at. Like, find love for yourself currently in this moment, and it's okay to want to change things about yourself. There's no problem with that at all. But if you get to a point where you judge yourself so hard, where you start to hate yourself and become paralyzed by that thought, then it means there's a lack of acceptance and nurturing for yourself in this moment. Does that help?
And I want to give the best analogy on this last analogy.
Do you find that looking at your working team environment, when you were by yourself or with your family, but being in a team environment, do you think that that's helping? Because when you are overcritical for yourself, the guys will pull you back. pull that back or the other way. Making sure that they can say it in a positive manner, perhaps.
Yep.
And say, you know, you need to lift more weights or
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. It's one that I dealt with harshly. Like, you guys heard part of my story. Like, that's a part of it. You heard about like the last 2.5 months of my parents. You know, that's 27 years of my life. And so I spent a lot of my life as the lone wolf of being alone. And the worst part of my life when I had depression and I was suicidal was when I was alone. Because of that, I had negative stories of myself. I didn't have positive influences around me. I didn't have people that loved me. I didn't have people that loved me truly. I had people that loved me through support. So what you're saying is, I had people in my friend circle that were into drugs and violence like I was. And so their support was like, yeah, fuck yeah, keep doing that, smash that cop car. Like, that's what my friends were like. I was so stupid. Then I had friends that just beat me up and hated me, you know, and I had that aspect as well. But then I find a group of people that are just like the most supporting team, and it's now I understand the importance of having that around you. I think it's grown me tenfold, because these guys are so honest with me. If I do anything that upsets them or they think that I would want to know, like if I do something that they believe that is making me unhappy or that I'm not aware of that might bring unhappiness to me, they let me know. And it's just from such a strong, powerful, loving place. They're not these people who are like, oh, just keep doing you, I'll support you. They're like, okay, well, I don't think Navar actually wants to continue down this path. I'm going to bring it up with him. They do it all the time. It happens all the time. We do it with each other. We challenge each other from a place of love all the time. I think that's probably one of the most powerful things I've ever had in my life. I've been through a lot of shifts in the last 2.5 years since doing the business, because with Josh and then Joel and living with Nikki as well. So I live with Joel and Nikki. These guys challenge me all the time. Joel and Nikki always challenge me. Like, to bring you in some insight, I'm taking 3 months of weed again right now. The other night I was like, oh, maybe I'll smoke a little bit. Nikki's like, no! And I'm like, oh, okay! And I'm like, yeah, fair call. And so I didn't do it because like I have faith and trust within the people closest to me. Because yes, the stories that we tell ourselves sometimes aren't true. Sometimes they're negative, sometimes they're just stories that we tell ourselves. And I think it's so important to find a group of people around you that don't only support you, but also challenge you out of love and support. Does that make sense? Does that help cover that? Cool.
I'll
Do you
drop
want to say that, Anil?
my analogy. Yeah, like there's a big misconception with like the self-development space that you need to try and be better. The word try implies that there's effort required, that if you strip everything back and just be yourself, your goals should be in alignment with what you would naturally do, not what you think you do, what you naturally do. So my analogy is like, if you're raising a kid, you don't want to yell at the kid to make the kid grow up faster. You nurture the kid and give the kid space, the kid naturally grows up. That's the same mentality we need to apply ourselves. So take all the pressures of who we think we need to be, let us be ourselves, and we'll naturally grow anyway, because that's our natural state. So if you think, I need to try and be better so I'm worth it, or I need to I'll earn the money, I'll love myself, whatever it is, that trying is forcing you from having the space just to be yourself and naturally grow. Because our naturals, like the way we're wired is to be curious and grow. Look at kids, why, what's that? So enthusiastic. If we take the pressure away, just let that come out, we naturally grow anyway. And that makes it so much easier than trying to make yourself grow. Trying to force growth when it's not fun, when it's not what you want, it's nowhere near as easy. Just go, boo, and shoot in that direction that you naturally would.
Trees don't grow overnight, everyone.
Is there any other questions? Yep.
My question is, you have a good support in your work. When you work in a really stressful job and the people around you are really negative because they're so highly stressed, how do you deal with that?
That's actually a good point. I actually answered this question on my Instagram just the other day. My past life, I was a diesel mechanic, and the same time I got into being a diesel mechanic was the same time that I also got into personal development, and within 12 months I'd also stepped into the male entertainment space. You know, I was a stripper and a topless waiter. Diesel mechanics, like mining, like blue collar, the boys, workshop boys, right? As well as there is a lot of toxicity in the Saturday night environment and the after midnight crowd, you know what I mean? And what I found for myself was that by nature, everyone wants to be happy. As again, Joel said, the children always be drawn to excitement and pleasure. And that still exists inside every single one of us. So for me, I actually allowed myself I decided to step up and be that bright light for the people in that workplace. And I decided to be the catalyst for the people in my workplace, because I knew that I'm responsible for my life, and that if I step into that, if you step into a dark room, you have the option to flick the light bulb on, right? But you don't have to flick it on if you don't want to, but that means you also have to stand in darkness. So I decided to be the light myself, so that when I stepped into my workplace, noted there are some people that just don't want to be helped, right? They just don't want to bar over, right? But through growth and through training and exercising a good mindset, your own health, your own self-love, and just being a little bit more vibrant, you know, how can I be more vibrant than I was yesterday? By exercising that lifestyle, you will naturally brighten their day, and you know from the bottom of your heart that there are some people in your workplace that if you went to them and just that one person, right, just that one person on a Thursday after lunch and just said, this is me whispering by the way, but then I'll say it loud so you can hear it, I think you're a really nice person. And that was really cool this morning, hey, you remembered my name. I just want to let you know that when I first started this, you were one of the first people to remember my name, and that's really special to me, and thank you so much for that. That doesn't take much to whisper. You walk off, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's a bit brighter over there today. And then you go over here, you're like, you're a nice person too. Oh, it's brighter, and all of a sudden you turn all the lights on. And I did that for me in my workplace, and I did that when I was stripping the boys as well. Yeah, boys, we're here to have fun. Everyone's like, yeah, we are here to have fun. I'm like, yeah, let's go have fun. And we used to jump on stage and get reckless. But before, they were like, oh, I can't wait to finish my shift so I can spend all my lap dance money on alcohol. And I'm like, no, guys, save your money. But just being positive and being bright allowed them to see that in themselves. Because a lot of the times we look at others to see what's inside of us as well, and that's how we connect as well. So if you be that bright person, you're allowing others to see their brightness inside of them as well.
Yeah, it's just that some people are so negative that you walk into the room and you try to be positive, and then they just bring you down. You know, you're just like, oh, and then you're like, oh. You know, they just suck the energy from you.
Yeah,
And you're
just
like,
bless them and stand back.
Holy water. Yeah. You get the fire extinguisher.
Sometimes you just quit as well. Like,
We could only react, like we could only choose how we react.
Yeah.
Like, and that,
Yeah.
that's literally it. Like, and you are right. There are some
Because the more
situations.
positive you are, sometimes it makes them worse. You know, they're like even more like, how are you so happy? And
Oh man, I play with
and
that.
you're like, oh.
I just play with that.
troll them.
We troll them, like literally.
Yeah.
It's sometimes like it's. I think once we have, me personally, like we're in the industry of like trying to help people, so we naturally do this anyway. But me personally, I know it's the same for these guys. If we have awareness of how important it is to be happy and to find positivity within your life, and we see people negative, I know that we take on somewhat of an obligation to be like, oh, let's try and cheer this person up. So we find ways to try and do that. That's just our nature. Not saying that everyone has to do that, but we enjoy it, and because it brings, I know it brings my positivity up even more. If I can learn how to just try and troll and be funny and laugh and positive around negative people, how easy it is to be positive when you're not around negative people, if that makes sense. Yeah, but you can't change people. You know? Like all we could do is we could create space and we could create love and we could give opportunity for people to change.
And change how we feel, maybe.
Exactly.
In that situation.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Find ways that we could be that happiness and positivity for them to move into. Whether they move into it or not, it's up to them. That is not only for our work environment, for our partners, for our family, for our friends. We can't change those people. What we can do in a really negative way is we can judge and we can lose our own life because that's going to help them move forward. So the biggest gift that we can ever provide to anyone is always be that light. Always try and provide that space and allow them to move into that space. It's up to them whether they take that space. But we win that way, which is the whole. This took me a long time to learn because I was like, when I looked at someone like Joel, I was like, fucking naive guy. If something goes wrong, he's gonna get beaten up. That's how my mindset was. Because my dad was like, I was like, how dare you be so happy? Life sucks. And he's like, yay! That was my mindset because my dad told me that. Anyone that was too positive wasn't ready for life because life is shit. And the reality is life is a struggle. Shit happens in life. But what we can do is just be that positive light and just be that for everyone and like everything's just easier that way. You know what I mean? And if we give, we receive. Because us giving, don't put your hands up. If giving is receiving in a lot of ways because it allows us to be ourselves and be happy without being reactive to their negativity. So we win. Plus, it allows them to grow up and to them to be positive. And how amazing does it feel when someone negative becomes positive because of us? It's like the biggest gift we could ever have.
There's one additional note, just to practice more empathy and compassion. Like if someone is externalizing that much negativity, just think how they must feel, and then instead of seeing them as like a villain, see them as someone who deserves love.
Because one of you said about like how stress affects people, so now I'm like, well, they're obviously highly stressed. They are not themselves because because of stress.
That helped me with my parents, understand that about my parents.
Yeah.
Like if they're able to hurt their children, I know my parents love me. If they're able to hurt me and my brother mentally and physically, how much pain must they be going through? And I have to think about, like I'm very lucky that I had the empathy and understanding even as a child. I was like, as I'm being hurt by my parents, I was like, wow, like how much pain would they feel? Because like put your hand up, you would want to hurt your children. Very true. And I was a shit kid, it was all my fault, so they have every right. But no, like I know the amount of pain they must have felt, and it's important to have that empathy and understanding.
Just on the note of that, one of the things that I explain to my clients is that stress itself is actually, consider a stress like a cocktail. So the ingredients are a bit of vodka here and a bit of lime here and this kind of stuff. When it's stressed, it's a bit of high blood pressure, it's a bit of muscle tension, it's a bit of brain fog, it's all these different things that you're experiencing inside your body, and that is a cocktail of enzymes, your heart rate, all this kind of stuff that's going on internally. So it's kind of like a cocktail, but it's more like toilet cleaner. So I say to my clients, I'm like, don't drink the toilet cleaner. And then they're like, oh, don't drink, and that's a little thing that when they go in their day, and I'm like, have I drank toilet cleaner today? And if people are stressed, you're like, well, they've had a lot of duck today. There's a fair bit of duck inside their system, yeah. But when you understand that, you're like, wow, I actually don't want the duck in my system as well. But then that allows you to create a really simple reptilian way of empathy for those people as well. And another thing I wanted to touch on as well, with just generally with all of you, a lot of the things about the questions I've seen today is that what we want you guys to do is actually lean into discomfort. And it's Joel's home screen on his thing, a little wallpaper. But it's okay to have a small amount of challenge in your life, and it's okay to have a small amount of support. That contrast is there. Just like day and night, we need to live a life of contrast. So don't be afraid to lean into the discomfort, because it's there to teach you things and is there to guide you. So don't jump. I do it. I jump into the discomfort, jump into the pain bit, which is I love doing it because I live life like a roller coaster. It's not the most ideal way for you guys, but being able to lean into the discomfort will give you motivation. It will give you a reason to change. And you don't have to, by fully delving into it, you can clap on too much, but leaning into it gives you that contrast of life. It gives you that challenge. It gives you that self-accountability. So don't be afraid to lean into the discomfort, because when you break through, that's your little bubble of growth that you've burst, you've then leveled up.
Yes, let's go. Let's go.
One of the strong things I learned, what was a sort of analogy that came to me, was that a scientist apparently observes before they change. If they want to do something, they observe. So I allow myself to observe what hurts, and so I don't actually have to do anything with it. I'll just observe, allow myself. That's a very powerful start point for me whenever I'm unhappy about something. And the second thing that goes with that is that I learned this from a psychiatrist I had to spend time with as a client. Your brain unconsciously finds an answer to things that you don't like anyway. You may not be able to find the answer, it might take weeks, but just by observing what you don't like, over time you will start to be able to deal with it. So those two things together are sort of the tools that I use when I'm really uncomfortable.
Very true. That's massive. He was just sharing about observing, and observing is massive.
Any other questions?
Not so much a question, more about staying on track. What Josh said about that core RX stuff. I started taking up Steve Joel life coaching and got that core RX. It's brilliant. I have mental health issues, and I have mental health issues, and it just helps dull the crazy, so I can work with Joel to get my life. So it's really good stuff.
Yeah, I take quarter X every night before I go to bed as well.
So I think we all do. Yeah. Off of that, actually, the amazing review, we have a free bottle to give away. Well, I don't know the question to ask everyone.
Yeah. Did you? Probably not enough detail, but we'll see.
Sure. Okay. Alright, let's do it. So, we're gonna get someone to throw that. You're gonna throw your hand up when you're ready to answer, and then the first person to put their hand up obviously gets the ability to answer the question.
Alright, let's see.
Let's see whether.
And no fake putting your hands up and then be like, oh.
You have to say the answer straight away when we point at you.
If you put your hand up, you don't have the answer. You have to give us $50. Okay?
Yeah. You have to buy the next
That's a
quarter
great.
X.
Yes. Okay. So the question is, if you put your hands up, what does the amygdala do? Oh.
It's the it's the part in the thing that identifies problems.
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Here you go. Nice. Excellent. Very much.
Are we gonna wrap? Is anyone else?
I think that's it. Everyone else. Yep. Sorry to those that
Chat
don't
to
win
us
anything.
afterwards anyway, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll be sticking around for any one-on-one private questions if you guys have anything more intimate to share.
Thanks so much, guys. Goodness.
Yeah, it's good seeing you. Hi, man.
Great shirt.
Leave the room. Pick a brighter room. That's one. Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Now the job that I'm out because they didn't change.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, that's a really good point. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks very much. Good to see you. Stress.
It's actually like, I could really see the way this
Yeah.
nice to
At first I was a little bit.
Yeah.
Good. Enjoy it?
And yeah, you'll find that perhaps
Good, good.
like,
Maybe it's again every
perhaps you
Ask the questions.